You can be the smartest person in the room and still sound dumb and lose the room entirely because of the way you speak. And I should know because I have had it happen to me too. So today I am breaking down the speaking patterns that quietly sabotage us, especially high achievers, from founders and CEOs to everyday humans just tired of not getting heard. And once you know these, you'll start noticing them everywhere. I'm Codie Sanchez, and this is the Big Deal podcast. This is how you get attention like a CEO. All right, let's go to trap number 1, excessive hedging. People ignore everything you say before the word but. Did you know that? So if you say, I could be totally off here, but, and then you drop a perfectly solid point, neuroscience finds you're going to get ignored. And this is actually, there's a word for this. It's called linguistic hedging, and it's killing your competency score. So every single human, immediately when we meet another one, gets graded on 2 things mainly, warmth and competency. If you want to be listened to, you better be competent, even above being warm in the world of business. So the research on linguistic hedging shows that excessive qualifiers reduce perceived competence and authority, especially in high status environments. To say that in English, if you use but, I don't know, maybe, could be, I'm not sure, prepared to be pushed around like a rag doll, even when the content quality of what you say is unchanged. So you could be saying really smart things, but you're going to be tossed. There's this classic persuasion finding where speakers who presented arguments confidently were rated as more credible. Okay, that kind of makes sense, even when their arguments were identical to more hesitant versions. But a really scary study, they did a follow-on study that showed people who argued more confidently but were wrong were rated even more credible than those who argued not confidently but were right. So confidence is actually a heuristic. People don't consciously score your logic, they score your certainty. So why do smart people do this then? Why do we hedge? Because you're aware of the complexity. You and I both know reality is kind of probabilistic. And, so we hedge. You don't want to sound like some sort of sycophant out there saying, everyone should do this. You always do this. This never works, because that's not realistic. But the problem, do you want to win or do you want to be right? And now here's some important nuance. Hedging isn't always bad, but it largely is. I mean, there's something called strategic hedging, which signals, hey, I'm intellectually honest. But most hedging you're doing is insecurity hedging, which signals I'm scared of being judged. Let's be honest. What are we usually doing? We're probably more scared of being judged than really strategically thinking about how to hedge. So let me show you the difference between the two. Let's say, I think we should move forward with point A. However, we have to take into account that there is a 30% failure rate. If we do that, that could be an issue. As opposed to, I want to move forward with point A, but there's always a chance that it's not going to work. And I can't guarantee it 100%. Which one sounds more serious? Obviously the first one. I gave numbers. I stated things as opposed to questioning things. So here's the test. Are you adding nuance for clarity, or are you padding your statement to avoid social risk? Okay, so how do we fix this? How do we make you sound smart and people pay attention to you? Instead of saying, I might be wrong, but I think we should cut this feature, I want you to say, based on the data we have, cutting this feature is the right move. And if you want to be even better, say what the data is. Based on the data we have, we believe with a 70% probability, this is the right move. Give numbers and specifics. So this is the same thought, but just a slightly different posture. I want you to avoid excessive hedging because it's making people stop paying attention to you. Steve Jobs was famous for being the opposite of this. He'd have one sentence that tells you what to think. I call it his Twitter length headline. So he'd have one for the whole talk or product. So maybe like, today, Apple is going to reinvent the phone. This is the world's thinnest notebook. An entire library of songs in your pocket, right? Everything else was proof of that one line, one idea repeated, no hedging. The second trap is over-explaining. Smart people love clarity and they hate being misunderstood. So they explain, then they clarify, then they get an example, then they restate the example, then they summarize the summary. Yikes. What happens? You signal one of 2 things. Your audience is either slow or you think your idea can't stand on its own, and neither is going to help your credibility. And there's nothing more infuriating to a competent person than having somebody over-explain an idea they already got on the first sentence. So if you really want to piss off somebody with ADD, OCD, and high competence, then explain yourself a lot. I hate to say it, this isn't PC, but ladies, we do this more than men. And we have to work on it if we want to be taken seriously. There's actual real research in cognitive psychology that has identified something called processing fluency. So when something is easy to understand, people judge it as more truthful and more intelligent. So ironically, over-explaining actually reduces your fluency. It makes simple things feel heavy. And you've seen this, like someone explains a concept for 5 minutes and you think, what is this guy talking about? Like the idea could be good, but the delivery, well, that makes everything else get tossed out the window. So what's the fix? I want you to deliver the core idea concisely. Pause, let silence do the work. If someone wants more depth, they'll ask. Authority ends up trusting the listener. So let me give you an example. 2 explanations. Low fluency. Our vertically integrated infrastructure leverages synergistic distribution pathways to optimize cross-sector capital allocation. Don't we all know somebody who talks like that, by the way? That's low fluency. High fluency. We buy boring businesses that make money. Which one sounds smarter? Actually, the second one. Which one feels more trustworthy? Number 2. Which one gets remembered? Sure as hell, number 2. Because smart people take complex things and make it simple. And it's not about this cognitive load or using a bunch of vowels. Another fascinating study, if you look at stocks with easy names, researchers found that companies with the easiest to pronounce names like car outperformed those with hard to pronounce names like RDO. Naming actually matters. And in marketing, this is really true. This is why Apple ads work so well. Think about them. Simple background, minimal text, one product, clear headline. What do? That reduces your cognitive load. You don't have to think so hard. Your brain just goes, that makes sense, and it must be premium. And it makes, processing fluency basically makes simple look smart. And there's some dangerous sides to this. Like it can make bad ideas look good. That's why scams use simple language and conspiracy theories spread wildly. It's why charismatic leaders will win. We all know one, right? You know one right now who is not as smart as you, not as good as you, but often wins because they're smoother. And so how do you use this ethically? If you want to sound more intelligent, we want shorter sentences. We want concrete nouns, no jargon, white space, speak slower, remove filter words. This is one of those ideas that quietly runs the world. So keep it stupid simple. Trap 3, talking too fast when it matters. Ever seen someone's pitch get higher? Their words speed up, their breath shortens. Why? Their nervous system is firing. When we're anxious, the sympathetic nervous system, it activates. That's like your heart rate rises, breathing shifts, speech accelerates. Listeners unconsciously interpret that speed as uncertainty. Even if actually you know what the fuck you're talking about, you just talk fast like I do. So studies on vocal perception show that slower, lower paced speech is actually associated with higher status and greater credibility. Now you got to be careful here because when you're talking to your boss, don't try to be profound. You want to make sure you are tied to the right timing. But when you rush your most important points, you subconsciously signal, I need to get through this before you reject it. What's the fix? When you reach your most important sentence, slow down by 20%. Add micro pauses. Breathe before the key line. For example, instead of saying, so what I'm saying is we should pivot the whole strategy because the data is clearly showing diminishing returns. Try, I think we should pivot. The data is showing diminishing returns. You can make everything fast up until then, but when you've got your plane to land, land it. I want you to remember the 3 S's. Shorter, slower, stronger. They use this on us in advertising. Like, listen to the speed of this part of the Apple speech. Think different. Here's to the crazy ones.
Here's to the crazy ones. The misfits. The rebels. The troublemakers. The round pegs in the square holes. The ones who see things differently. They're not fond of rules, and they have no respect for the status quo. You can quote them, disagree with them, glorify or vilify them. About the only thing you can't do is ignore them, because they change things. They push the human race forward. While some may see them as the crazy ones, we see genius. Because the people who are crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones who do.
They basically relaunched Apple's brand around creativity and nonconformity, but done really cleanly, slowly, and strategically. Trap 4, story, not specs. So I'm using Steve Jobs a lot in this because he's one of my favorite entrepreneurs, but also because he's one of the best of all time. And he is one of the best speakers ever, so we should steal his homework. And I think he followed a simple arc. Status quo to problem, to bold promise, to proof, to the future. So he would start with words like the world before, phones are clunky, laptops are heavy. Then he'd raise the stakes to make a clear promise, but in the future, you will hold all of the songs in your pocket. Then he would show the solution live. Bam, show, don't tell. Because people remember the story change, not the feature list. So you see, when you lead with ruthless simplicity, you can actually tell a story. Steed's slides and language were stripped down. Few words on screen, big visuals, almost no bullets. I want you to think of short, concrete phrases instead of jargon, like, it just works. Or once on stage, he's just said, gorgeous. Because the story was simple, the audience, they had the bandwidth to feel it in their brain. One of my favorites on Jobs was a speech that he gave on connecting dots at Stanford. And he has a couple lines I love. He's talking about when he does calligraphy and he learns computing and coding and he puts them together and he creates maybe the world's most valuable company. And he says, you have to trust in something, your gut, destiny, life, karma, whatever, because believing that the dots will connect down the road will give you the confidence to follow your heart even when it leads you off the well-worn path. And that will make all the difference. Trap 5, being a show-off. This one hurts because it's actually hard for me. It's really tempting to play it cool. You should actually be a show-off. The people who win in life are not the ones in the shadows. They are the ones who actually demonstrate what they do. I was just on a podcast with Bill Gurley, one of the best investors of all time. And he told me something fascinating about the founder of WeWork, Adam Neumann. He said when he first met him in his Series A, so the company basically had nothing in existence. His company, Benchmark, had never done a real estate transaction. That's what this guy was asking him to do. But he goes, within the first few minutes, I knew I was going to invest in Adam and I was going to invest millions because he was such a showman. Think about who the president is right now, whether you like him or hate him. Donald Trump is a showman. Think about who's the richest man in the world right now, whether you like him or hate him. Elon Musk is a showman. So you actually need to flex. You know more than most people in the room. You've read the research. You understand the second order effects. You're smarter than you're giving yourself credit for. So flex it. I don't want you to reference obscure frameworks. I don't want you to add theoretical layers that aren't necessary because I want you to get recognized. But research on the illusion of explanatory depth and communication shows that the simpler you are, the more intelligent you are perceived. So the smartest communicators, they actually reduce complexity. They don't amplify it. Einstein supposedly said, if you can't explain it simply, you don't understand it well enough. Whether he said it or not, I think it's true. Smart, insecure speakers try to prove they're smart. Secure, smart speakers make everyone else feel smart. Think about that for a second. That's the power. So here's the fix. Go big and show, but default to the show being simple. Clarity beats cleverness every time. Trap 6, obsessive rehearsal. Most people think great speakers are born with it. They are not. They are the ones willing to rehearse more than is reasonable. Psychologist Anders Ericsson spent decades studying world-class performers like violinists, chess players, athletes, surgeons, all of it. And his conclusion, and uncomfortable for everyone who likes the idea of quote-unquote talent, the main difference between the elite and the average wasn't who they were. It's how they practice. By age 20, the best violinists in his studies had put in more than 10,000 hours of focused practice. The merely good ones had about 4,000. Same instrument, same age, totally different outcomes. And later research really refined the picture. Practice isn't the only factor. Like deliberate practice. That explains roughly 1/5 to 1/4 of the performance gap between pros and amateurs. In other words, if you line up 100 people, a big part of why the top 5 look superhuman is they simply have done it more on purpose for longer. Public speaking, no different. Speaking well every day, no different. The speakers who don't rehearse are the ones who ramble, run out of time, panic, and have a voice in their head telling them that they're not saying the right things coming out of their mouth. The ones who run the talk out loud multiple times, well, they're calm and clear, baby. So when you watch someone who seems effortlessly good on stage, you're actually seeing something else entirely. hours of practice, hours of cutting out weak examples, hours of practicing the pause after the key line. So I don't want you to feel like you either have talent or you don't. You can make it. And if you want to see nobody better, go look at Steve Jobs. I mean, one of the best speakers of all time. But did you know he would say the natural delivery, he engineered it. People inside Apple say he rehearsed keynotes aloud for hours and even was so specific down to fonts and demo beats. Because the material was internalized, he could look at people move and improvise around this sort of solid spine of his speeches. But, the best shorthand for how he speaks and why he's heard is the fact that he practiced for a really long time. Trap 7, constant self-deprecation. This one is common among us high performers. You joke about being bad at things. You downplay wins. You undercut compliments. I know sometimes it feels humble, and maybe sometimes it is, but overuse of this is nothing but self-sabotage. So research on impression management shows that strategic modesty works when balanced with being super competent. But the problem is chronic self-deprecation actually lowers your perceived ability, especially among people who don't know you yet. So there's actually a fabulous study on self-promotion versus modesty in job interviews. It's by Godfrey, Jones, and Lohr. And what they studied, the researchers wanted to test how different self-preservation strategies affect how people perceive you. Like, does modesty increase likability, for instance? So how did they do it? The participants acted as evaluators in a mock hiring scenario. They watched videotaped job interviews where applicants used different communication strategies: self-promotion, ingratiation, modesty, neutral controlled condition. The actors delivered identical qualifications, no different, right? Same resume, same background, same everything, except the style of delivery changed. After watching, evaluators rated the candidates on competence, likability, hireability. What do you think happened? Self-promotion increased ratings of competence, intelligence, and recommendations for hiring. Slight decrease in likability if too strong, but not that much. Ingratiation and modesty increased likability, but actually didn't increase competence, reduced perceived capability, and also reduced likelihood of them being referred for hire. The key insight: strategic self-promotion actually gets you hired. You being modest isn't helping anybody else but your competitors. And, I really want you to think about this, because a lot of times somebody will give you a compliment like, "You did a great job. That was a great presentation." And you reply, "Honestly, I totally winged it. It was kind of a mess." You just rewrote their perception. Upgrade move, accept the praise. Thank you. That's it. You don't need to shrink to be likable. Confidence with warmth is magnetic. Insecurity disguised as humor, nothing but transparent. So the pattern behind all these traps, if we're going to zoom out, is fear of social rejection, being wrong, fear of being judged, not being liked. Smart people feel this more because you actually see all the complexity of this. Oh, to be a beautiful idiot, right? You know how much you don't know. And so here's the paradox. The people who win rooms aren't the ones who know the most. They're the ones who manage perception of others best. And perception is heavily influenced by delivery, not just content. It's not about pretending. It's not like the fake alpha energy. It's really about aligning to how you can get the outcome you want. Your job isn't to defend against every possible criticism. It's to communicate clearly and let your ideas stand. And so I want you to ask yourself a couple questions. A simple speaking reset framework. Before important conversations, run this checklist. Am I hedging unnecessarily? Am I over-explaining? Am I rushing? Am I overcomplicating? Am I landing statements confidently? Am I comfortable with silence? Pick one thing to improve per week. Don't try to fix everything at once. Awareness alone is going to upgrade you 15, 20, 30%, because practice actually will help you upgrade the rest. Most smart people are not held back because you're dumb. You're held back because how that intelligence is delivered. If you fix the delivery, suddenly the room treats you like the smartest person there because now you sound like it. So if you want to outperform your peers in anything that involve words, there's a simple unfair advantage available to you. Rehearse more than they do and rehearse with intent. Run the talk through out loud. Fix one thing each time. Do that obsessively and people will start calling you a natural. That's it for today. And next time you're in a meeting, listen for these traps. You're going to hear them everywhere. And once you do, you'll come back here and we'll figure out your next step.
Going on Shark Tank absolutely changed my life.
Hi, Sharks. I'm Allison Ellsworth.
I'm the first person to have gotten a deal to be a shark ever.
That is wild. How do you build $1 billion brand? What is the formula?
I always say there's like 3 things. One is...
Allison Ellsworth built a modern soda empire from scratch.
From local farmers markets to a Shark Tank deal.
Perhaps the most successful soft drink startups that America has ever seen.
Poppy has over 3 billion views on TikTok. 1/3 of the platform has seen my face 7 times. Poppy was the fastest growing beverage in the history of beverage, basically.
I didn't know that.
As a brand, if you are not on TikTok, posting multiple times a day, guess what that costs you is your time.
Have you ever had a really big disagreement or something go really sideways?
There was literally screaming, fighting, but I think that it brings good resolution to have those moments. I love the good and the bad.
I know.
Our mission at Poppy is to revolutionize soda for the next generation. I want it to be the soda my kids and grandkids know as soda. And the only way to do that is to get it into more hands.
So what does it take to sell a company to Pepsi for like $1.95 billion?
Yeah, so especially in beverage, there's literally 3 people that can buy you, or you can go public. And
hi, and welcome back to the Big Deal Podcast. I'm Codie Sanchez. In this episode, Allison Ellsworth breaks down the exact playbook she used to turn skeptics into superfans and land one of the biggest beverage deals in years with her company, Poppy. And she didn't do it by luck. She did it with a lot of hustle and one secret, which was a guy on Shark Tank who helped her take all the homework he'd had over decades and apply it to her business. She credits him and a few others with the reason why Poppy is now worth $1.95 billion. We're actually trying to do the same thing here at the Big Deal Podcast. Steal some of the best and brightest homework so that you guys can have mentors just like she did. If you've ever learned something on this podcast or you want us to be your mentors, subscribe on YouTube or Spotify. You are a big deal to us, and we want to make you a big deal. Let's start with Shark Tank. No real background in this. Definitely not a $2 billion company at that time. What was that like as a young woman?
yes, I watched every episode before I went on, and I wanted a deal, right? I think some people go on and they kind of just want to be on TV.
Yeah, or get the marketing or something.
Get the marketing. And then on top of it, I was 9 months pregnant, literally had the baby 2 weeks after.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But I always was like, oh, this will make great TV if I go in labor on national TV.
Spoken like a real entrepreneur. She's like, this would be perfect.
Might go viral. But it was interesting. So got a deal, absolutely changed our life. I think it's amazing. And then, being the first person to have gotten a deal to then be a shark and sitting on both sides and seeing both sides of the curtain, I guess, was really cool. And
so who did your deal and how much money did they give you?
Yeah, so we did our deal back in 2018. Mm-hmm. It was with Rohan Oza. Mm-hmm. It was $400,000 for 20%.
Oh my God, deal of a lifetime for this guy.
It is, yeah.
Dilutive, at least?
Yeah, of course. I mean, we had 100% of the company at that time.
Okay.
So, but that was okay. Like, you go on Shark Tank to make a deal. They're sharks. It is what it is. It's like, what you're getting into.
Yeah. And at that time, kind of a crazy idea. You're like, the thing is soda. They're like, what? Like, it's not an easy business.
No, it was worse back then.
What
it was
it?
apple cider vinegar drink. Which is like,
is
what?
worse.
Who wants to invest in that? But we were called Mother Beverage before we were Poppy, and we did the whole rebrand. So not only was I like, hey, by the way, we have no branding. We just have a liquid that tastes good and a good story. And he just kind of like saw the vision. And I think a lot of stuff I'm investing a lot now that I see, and the number one thing I invest in is the founder. And I really think that he just saw that and we just hit it off right away.
Everybody says that it's about the founder, but then you try to explain it. Like, how can you tell if a founder is going to make it or not?
So most founders don't like being told what to do, right? They're doing things different. They're paving their own path. And so when you go to a founder where I've been in their shoes, and I'm not here to like take your money, I genuinely have a little bit of more sympathy for that. And I can relate to a founder that has vision, but is willing to take help. Because there's nothing worse than trying to work with someone that thinks they know everything. Like, even in business, you don't want to hire an employee like that. That kind of a person's annoying. And a lot of founders have big egos. I had a big ego when I first started and had to learn how to work with people and in the same sandbox. And so for me, when I'm talking to someone, I'll do a little bit of a test sometimes. I'll be like, hey, for your packaging, it's so cute. I love it, but would you be willing to change it? And I try to see their reaction, even if I don't want to change it. And some people will be like, wait, I spent so much money. I worked so hard. And they start like backtracking on why they don't want to change it versus I could be open to that discussion, and they're like open, but you also don't want a founder that just is willy-nilly and will change. So
Right.
you almost like, it's like a gut feeling too a little bit.
Yeah. Well, I think also, for that, I want the founder that's like, why are we changing it?
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, well, I think you could sell more if you did X and Y and Z. And the founder's like, okay, you think given your $2 billion plus access to Pepsi, if we changed the branding, we could get here and here instead of there. I'm like, yeah, it's like, do you want to be right or do you want to win?
Exactly.
So let's find the winners.
100%.
I love that. Okay. You know what's wild about you? You actually started in oil and gas research before you started this company, right? Mm-hmm. So what does that even mean for somebody listening?
I didn't know what I wanted to do. I just knew I wanted to make money. And you can make really good money in oil and gas. So I went on the road for 7 years working in teeny little towns. I worked in the courthouse where I would do the research on ancestry and trying to figure out who owns the mineral rights. And on top of it, then you track them down and you negotiate with them in the city and the local government and the Bureau of Land Management. Like, it's really complicated, but so what it really taught me was going out, getting to know people, their family, and how you can use that in business and it's not so transactional, which I think is really amazing, is like relationship building. And then dealing with government is not easy, right? To get things done. And so I think it was really well-rounded business, almost like better than college. Right?
Oh yeah, I think the best business school is being in business. Shocking,
Literally.
And you probably got a lot of rejection, I imagine. I've heard stories about people trying to go buy land rights or mineral rights on somebody's land, and they get like chased off with a shotgun.
Yep.
Like, I bet, did you ever have instances where you were chased off land with a shotgun?
There's a lot of ranchers out there that do not want you on there. They're used to people coming and sniffing around. I mean, there's times where I couldn't get a hold of people and I would send them a pizza with like on the top of the pizza, I'd go to like literally Domino's and write like a note and be like, I promise you, I'm like, just take a phone call with me. And then there's a lot of like backstabbing as well, where like the aunt finds out and tries to cut out the uncle and the sister. And like, you're playing a little bit of therapy, I guess, with the families. But I mean, like, once again, those learned experiences. It was really fun, but I'll be honest, it's not fun being on the road. And so I finally got to the point where I was like, I wanted to start a family. I loved it. I loved the money, but it just wasn't worth it anymore. And I was just discovered this new path.
Yeah. Yeah. You're like an episode of Landman.
Literally. Yeah.
Did it help that you were cute and female?
I was the only female at the majority of everything. And I do think it gave a little bit of a softer side to it. And I was from Texas and my dad grew up in Montana. And like I wasn't necessarily quote unquote a city girl, but I was. Let's be real, I was.
But you threw a y'all in there where appropriate.
Yes.
I love that. So you go from naturally oil and gas straight to production of, I don't know, apple cider vinegar soda water, which is not so normal.
No.
What happened? Why did you do that? And did people tell you were crazy?
Yeah. So I started it because I had a lot of health issues. My stomach was hurt. My skin was breaking out. I was allergic to so many different like makeups and fragrances. And I just started Googling ways to just like heal my body through food. Yeah. I never really had been into reading nutritional labels. I didn't even really know what half of the things that were bad or good for you were. Because, you go to college and then you kind of get out and you're just like, you just don't care about your wellness. I think that, look, there's a huge movement now. This was 10 years ago.
Yeah, we were Taco Bell Cheeto girls. I get it.
I love Taco Bell.
I know, me too.
And I started just eating healthier. I went gluten-free. I started working out. I started really trying multivitamins, just like natural things that you're like, oh yeah, no, I guess I can't say no shit.
You can say it all.
But it's one of those things I was like, okay. And apple cider vinegar just kept sticking out. I would drink it every day and it just made me feel better. But it wasn't sustainable. Have you ever taken a shot before?
Yeah, it's awful.
It's awful.
It's awful.
And you're like, I know this is probably something that's good, but I don't really want to do it. It's not sustainable. And so that's when I went to the kitchen. And I love to cook. It's a huge hobby of mine. I would spend as much time in the kitchen if I could. And I just made something that made it taste better. And then all of a sudden people are like, hey, this isn't that bad. The majority of people that told me I was crazy was my family. And it's so funny because I always say you want to surround yourself around people that like lift you up. But let's be real, being like, hey guys, I'm going to quit our job. I'm not going back on the road. I'm going to start selling this like vinegar tonic, basically. I definitely get why they thought I was crazy. But I did have my brother-in-law, like I brought it home to Thanksgiving one year. My brother-in-law got really excited. He was like tasting them. And my dad was like, hey, why don't you sell your hooch? Like this, you know, it's like they were like cutesy about it. Like, we love what you're doing. And then really where it took off was when we did actually start selling it. And we took it to the local farmer's market and it just kept selling out week after week. And then my husband finally was like, oh, wait, we have a business. This isn't such a hobby anymore. And then of course we worked on the formula and ever since to make it improved and better, but still some of our original flavors are like raspberry rose and ginger lime that we still have today.
I like the raspberry rose. I tried that
So
one.
good.
I haven't tried this one before, but I'm going to try it today. I was wondering, in the early days, you know, it's so hard starting a company. It can be so lonely and challenging and you run out of money. And then even if you're growing like crazy, then you got to fund the growth. You know, did you ever do any wild, unhinged things to grow Poppy?
So in the early days, we launched Poppy March of 2020, literally the first week of COVID. And so all of the traditional marketing plays went out the window. You couldn't do in real life events. You couldn't really do a lot in grocery store. Everyone was more concerned with getting toilet paper, right? And so most, especially in food and bev, you don't really go omni-channel from day one, where you kind of pick maybe D2C or Amazon and then you focus on retail and it ramps up. Well, for us, we were kind of forced to really go digital first sooner. So we went Amazon 100%.
Which is not normal, right?
It's not normal because it's very capital intensive.
Yeah, it's super. And that's omni-channel, meaning multiple channels that you could sell through. So like Whole Foods and Amazon and, you know, farmers markets even, whatever. And then it's so expensive because of the shipping costs.
We're shipping literally water, if you think about it, like liquid and beverages. And then on top to support both channels marketing wise and people wise. Like it's a whole other beast. So when we were going on TikTok in the first early days, no brands were on there. Everyone's like, those are just young kids dancing. And I was like, no, there was like so many people on this platform and no one was talking to them. But you couldn't kind of approach it the same way as Instagram, where it's like high gloss. I mean, there wasn't even Reels back then, like, which sounds so crazy if you really think about it.
Yeah.
And really there was YouTube, but long form is very hard, that type of content. And so I personally started just spending my nights and weekends and going on TikTok and just being as unhinged as possible. I was dancing, I was doing transitions, I was doing recipes.
Oh my God, we got to find these.
Like OG, I mean, looking back at like the music, you just like in your head, you know those songs, right? Like Savage and like all of that stuff from the OG days. Yeah. And it just absolutely went viral and blew up. And some people, what I like to get across is it was really unhinged and weird for that time, but a lot of founders don't even think to do it nowadays, which is wild. As a brand, if you are not on TikTok, posting multiple times a day, guess what that costs you is your time. And the ability to go viral can happen. And so I'm just like, it does sound unhinged, but still some brands are like, I don't know, which is weird.
It's hard to be comfortable being cringe, isn't it?
Correct.
Like, were there ever, so if you're talking to a young founder and they're like, too nervous to start. I'm anxious. Nobody's going to like me. What if they make fun of me on the internet? What do you tell somebody to get over that?
Get over it. I'll be like, do you want to win? Do you want to be successful? Do you want people to learn about your brand? Then who cares? Like, who cares? Like, you've already taken this big step to be an entrepreneur and put everything on the line for something that you love. And that I'm asking you to do is spend 2 minutes and film a TikTok. Like, get over yourself. And like, if you don't want to do it, I get that. Some people are scared. Hire someone. It's literally a resume now or a job description to hire someone to run your TikTok. And it's okay. I always tell people it's okay if you freak out and you're like, I don't want them to be the face of my brand. It's okay. Like, the internet moves really quick. If that person decides to move on or you want to promote them, they move into another position and someone else, like, the internet doesn't care. It's
so true. It moves so fast.
Fast. And just put some stats behind TikTok. Poppy has over 3 billion views on TikTok. 1/3 of the platform has seen my face 7 times. So like, it is like bananas. how much we've gone hard within the paid and the organic piece of it. And then another really big unlock that not a lot of people talk about anymore, really on the marketing side, is linear TV. You might think, oh,
what does that mean?
So there's streaming, there's cable, there's like big format TV, right? So a lot of people, Hulu, and watch on Hulu or YouTube or like different channels, but like we do traditional TV as well. So the Grammys or The Bachelor, like we'll do ads in actual TV, which now most people stream it on Hulu as well. So it's kind of like, to your point, a little bit muddy, if that makes sense. But a lot of people look at TV as what only big brands do, and you can start testing streaming. But our goal at Poppy was always brand awareness. We are not a performance marketing company. And from day one, we never looked at an ROI. We are not a traditional D2C company either. So we are 100% Amazon. So we don't actually own our customer data, but we found a way to make it work. So all of our ads go to our website. So we still capture the data of our consumer, and then it actually checks out on Amazon on our website.
Whoa.
So it's very different. So like with the iOS update, with all of that stuff that everyone freaked out with a couple of years ago, it just didn't affect us because wasn't built into our marketing model. So it's always been brand awareness, brand awareness, brand awareness. And so TV was a really big unlock. We've done 2 Super Bowl ads, tripled our awareness overnight with that. Now we're into year 5. Brand awareness, like 50% of America knows Poppy. We're 1 in 4 households. So now we got to maybe change it up a little. Brand, like a lot of people know it. So now we're just now starting to like look at, okay, how do we do more mid-funnel ads and kind of start moving people down? But for the first 5 years was not a focus.
That is wild.
And so I think that's just, it's really hard to get that through to people, is to build your brand, build your story before you scale.
You've built now a multi-billion-dollar brand, $1.95 billion acquisition by Pepsi.
Yeah.
How do you build a billion-dollar brand? What is the formula?
One is you have to have a good product. You have to. I'm sorry, like people can say marketing and this, but no, we have a fantastic product that people love. Second thing is we are a culture first, creator first, community first, digital first brand. And then we have an incredible team. And a lot of people don't put a lot of weight onto having a high performing, strategic, incredible team. So we always say we have great people, process, and platform inside Poppy. So they see all this like cool stuff that we're doing, but we have a engine behind us with our team that a lot of people are slow to hire. When you're growing, Poppy was the fastest growing beverage in the history of beverage, basically.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So it's just, we were growing so fast. So even people that were working for us had been in the food and bev for like 30 years. And they were like, I've never seen anything like this. Even Rohan, right? So it was a lot of learning together, building our own playbook and doing things differently. And you have to have a really collaborative team to be uncomfortable to do that.
How do you tell if somebody is a high performer or not and a good fit for your team?
Culturally at Poppy, one key thing we always found with like hiring people is at first we'd be like, resume, it's amazing. Look at all of your experience. No, it is hard work. And not like long hours, like burnout hard work, but just a hard worker. You show up, you're engaged, and you know what? We can teach people stuff, but I will take a hard worker that's willing to learn and like really go getter over someone that has 20 years of experience. And then I think if you can find someone that can do both, like we always call that's a unicorn. Yeah. Someone that has like crazy experience, willing to do stuff disruptively, and like a hard worker, like it's really hard to find.
So if we had to rapid fire and you had to choose between IQ versus curiosity.
Oh, curiosity.
Creativity versus academic background.
Creativity.
Great resume versus willing to be up early, stay late.
Early, stay late, street smarts.
Wild, huh? Because I think everybody thinks the opposite. They're like, they went to Harvard, must be easy. I always joke about, we got to wash the Harvard off you. Because you got told you were too smart and good.
I was a C student in college, and I built my business to be a $2 billion business, right? Not alone, with my team, but to your point, I'm like street smarts, I'm creative, I think different, and it's such a good recipe, though. You do have to pair it. Like, you got to have some data.
You need some nerds.
You need a good finance team. You need a good operations team. So, I think it's just to be disruptive. You need that. And then if you can find a way to pair it with some traditional, it's pretty special.
What do you think about business plans? Should every founder have one?
You know, I used to hate them. I used to hate agendas and AOPs and planning. And then once we got to the point where we went through a full year of planning, I was like, oh, wait, that is kind of fun. And I never thought I would say that, especially for me, because I think you don't like change as an entrepreneur. But when you start planning stuff for 2026 now, and we're doing like cool launches and innovation, we know what we're doing next summer, you can really do some really disruptive things. So something that we do at Poppy is we 80% plan, and then we leave 20% for crazy or unplanned. And I'll give you an example. We knew we were going to run linear TV. We tested a piece of creative in November of, I think it was 23. It did really well. We put it at the Bachelor of the Grammys, some big premium placement. And the creative was just so good. It was anthemic. It was putting our stake in the ground that we are soda for the next generation. And I was like, this is a Super Bowl. The whole board was like, this is a Super Bowl ad. Well, we couldn't find a Super Bowl. It was sold out. I finally found one like the Wednesday before the Super Bowl. We ended up buying the Super Bowl ad like the week of the Super Bowl. Oh. So like we knew we had something good. We knew we were doing TV, our creative, we filmed it, we had production. It was amazing. But like Super Bowl was not in the plan. And that's an expensive gamble. Right. Yeah. But that's how we just like, we're very optimistic, and we could just like grab something that was a cultural moment. It was good. We just knew in our guts. And it's hard for big businesses to do that. And I feel like still to this day, we're doing that at Poppy, even within the Pepsi system.
What does a Super Bowl ad cost you?
You know, you can Google it. I'm not supposed to say.
Oh yeah, that tracks. You're actually not allowed to, right?
Yeah, you're not supposed to say literally, but it's all just ChatGPT it.
Yeah, it's probably a lot, and it's all over the internet. But you didn't hear it here. Well, just kidding. We'll link it. I'll find that shit out for you.
Exactly. You say it, not me.
Yeah, exactly. David, find it out, and then tell me when you find it. Buying a Main Street business can change your life. Instead of starting from scratch, you can acquire a company that already has customers, cash flow, and a team in place. But here's the catch. Most people can't afford to pay cash for a business. That's where smart financing comes in. And let me tell you, this is where the game changes. Why spend years grinding from zero when you could skip the guesswork, acquire businesses that are already profitable, and scale them up? With SoFi's small business loan marketplace, you can get connected with SBA providers and other financing options to get the capital you need. That's the leverage, baby. There's no hit to your credit score just for searching in the SoFi marketplace. And if you're approved, you can have funding in your account as soon as the same day you're approved, which is wild, right? It's not about chasing the unicorn. It's about real cash flow, proven systems, and loyal customers from day one. And that's what Owner Nation is all about. So if you're in, head to sofi.com/Codie and see what's possible. Okay, so how about this? Is it true that you raised $50 million for your company or something like that?
It's a lot more.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, obviously by now.
Yeah.
So I guess my question is about, so you've raised more than $50 million for your company. We'll leave it at that. There's so many people listening that like, they have what I call a first wallet problem, which is like they almost can't think beyond their wallet. So they're like, I have $1,000, so I could only start a company with $1,000. And I think there are a lot of limiting beliefs people have about getting other people's money. One, they think that sounds scammy. Like, how could you get other people's money? What do you mean? Two, it's like, oh, that's only for rich people. Three, it's like, well, I don't know that I could do it because I've never given somebody money. So how could somebody else? It's all these first wallet problems. How do you pitch someone to get them to give you their money?
You know, I think it's a few things. You actually have to have a business plan. A lot of people do not want to invest in an idea. Mm-hmm. And you have to also know where that money is going. There's nothing more that irks me when someone says, I want you to invest in my brand. I'm like, what are you going to use it for? And they can't answer that question. Yeah. You know, look, I'm open to all sorts of things. I've had people say, I want to clean up my cap table. I want to invest it in marketing and people and headcount. POs coming in. Look, there's not necessarily a wrong answer. You just kind of need to know. And then once you like dig in, you want to do your DD on the due diligence, but like you actually have to like know what you're talking about, know the numbers. And that was a big thing going on being a shark this time that I learned. There's a lot of entrepreneurs that came in and they didn't know where their money was. And I'm like, you're going to go on a national TV show and not know where the $700,000 lives on your P&L. Like, know your stuff. And if you don't know it, hire someone, do a fractional, like be scrappy, figure it out. And I think if you can do that and you can sell, then comes the dream, sell the dream, but you kind of have to, unfortunately, have a business plan.
Yeah. So what did it sound like when you first pitched Poppy and you got people to invest in you? What was your pitch? Did you have a 30-seconder?
Yeah. So, hey, sharks. No. We had done about $500,000 in revenue. We were a different company called Mother Beverage, like I said. And we just had a great story. I was very passionate about it. We actually had some traction. We had some sales, right? It wasn't something that wasn't. We also were already in Whole Foods. So originally in the early days, we had Whole Foods come by our booth and they were like, you guys need to be in Whole Foods. And that was really an aha moment too of you have a business. So we had a retailer. We were going into Sprouts on top of it. So we kind of we were like a real business. We were a little baby business. So I think I have a lot of people that DM me now and they want a lot of my time. And it's tough because I don't have so much time and I have 3 children at home and I'm working on other projects and doing different things. And there's nothing, once again, that irks me more is someone saying, hey, I have an idea. I would love to jump on a call with you. And I'll be like, is that all? like you want me to build your business for you? Like you want me to just tell you, like, you know what I mean? It's tough out there.
But I think it's actually good that you say that because so many people are like PC nonsense on here and they just want everybody to feel like they're nice and not tell them the truth. And people who are trying to build it, they need the truth. Like, hey, you will not get an investor to take you seriously like that. Don't waste my time because that will not lead to you getting more money. So I think it's actually really good that people say this, especially women and big women founders, because sometimes we're too nice.
I know.
And it's
a problem.
Yeah, you probably weren't always that nice when you were growing. You're like, I don't have time for this or this or this because I got to do what needs to be done in the business.
Your life is so ingrained when you have business and kids and you're grinding and then you get to the point where they feel like, well, you don't have time for me. It's like, I don't have time for myself. Right. And so it's not personal, it's business and it affects people. For me, my family's incredible. They're one of the biggest supporters. I would not have survived my pop years without my husband. We're very blessed in that. But to your point, the friend thing's hard and I have so much love for him, but it's really hard.
You work with your husband. I do too. So hats off to you. I'm a big fan of like family business. I don't know who talked us out of the idea that family business was always bad. But how important is your partner to you? Like how important is it the person that you choose as your husband or your spouse?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's more important than they say, like you get into marriage with business leaders or investors and stuff. But if you don't have like that core, I don't know, like healthy marriage at home, like if your home life's a mess, then like you're not going to show up right and be able to be successful. And it's interesting because me and my husband started this together. I get all the recognition for Poppy, right? And so to even have a strong man to allow to live in that situation, I will say, we've talked about it and he's like, yeah, it'd be nice if I had more recognition, but like we're having success and we're building something that's going to last for generations. Like it's a true partnership and we know we're working towards the same goal has been really core to our success. But I'll be honest, now that we're on the other side of it, and we're doing kind of like our own thing. This is the first time ever we haven't worked together, like day in, day out. And so it's been an interesting, like, how we do this? Like, where are you going? How, like, I usually like am sitting next to him in the office or doing something. So it's like a whole new wave. And it's actually kind of fun, exciting. We're finding hobbies. It's like this whole new world of what I think probably marriage should have been, not like so crazy, like every date night at Poppy. So I just think it's so important. And then to find someone that lifts you up and like understands your values, because I am a very successful woman and a lot that can bother a lot of men, right? And he's just supported me through that. I don't know, would you say you guys have similar values?
Yeah. I mean, I think I got lucky. He's a former Navy SEAL. So he never really cared that much about money. He was like, we weren't even playing the same game. There was no competition between the two of us because he really cared about service. That's still really important to him.
Yes.
He cares about like, really, am I doing something that matters? That's super important to him. He needs to feel like needed and respected. And I like the game of business. So I was like, no, I want to build something big. And like, who cares if they respect me? I want to do, And so the two of us together, I think that worked well. But if it wasn't for him, I do think it would have been really hard to build alone.
I wouldn't be, like Poppy would not be here today if like we hadn't done it together. Hands down, I could not have done it alone. It's just, yeah, it's tough. And that's why we say like, it might not be your husband in business, but having a co-founder is special. And even if they're not a co-founder, just like the first 2 employees, like whatever it is, that community, keeps you sane.
Buddy system. I like it. Do you think that you can become a really successful billion-dollar CEO and still have all the same friends, do all the same things you did previously, have work-life balance? Is that possible?
No. And I think people need to hear that. And I think people also need to hear it's okay if you're a workaholic, if you love it. I think women get that a lot too, is like, well, why don't you want to be home more and do all this and like have a spa day and do those things? It's like, because I would rather be at work. And that's okay. It's when it's burnt out, you don't like it and you don't love it, you should take a break and you should take care of yourself. That's not what I'm saying. But there's this stigma of you should have balance, but like, I don't want balance. I thrive in chaos. I'm obsessed without balance, right? And that's okay. And I don't think a lot of people talk about that. It's as long as you're mentally okay. I'm not saying don't take care of yourself. I don't know. How do you act with that type of thing?
The same. Somebody at my trainer this morning asked me, like, what are your hobbies? I was like, that's funny. Hobbies? I don't have time for hobbies right now. I got a hobby and it's called the business. Yeah. And I hobby it all day from like 6 to 9, like that's about what we do.
And you love it.
And I'm thrilled. Yeah, I wouldn't have to, I wouldn't do it if I mean, there are parts of every day I don't like, if I'm super honest. Yeah, there's at least some part of every day that I'm like, fuck my life, this is really hard. But there's more of the day that I really like. And so I can't imagine doing anything else. And I find it totally uninteresting, if I'm honest.
Yeah. So that means you still love it.
Yeah.
Because now I'm on the other side where we've transitioned to advisors on Poppy. I'm still heavily involved in the creative and marketing, but I picked up golf and I'm obsessed. But
that's a 180.
It's a 180, but it's almost like I'm taking lessons 3 times a week. And it's a hobby I can do with my husband, which we've never had hobbies together because Poppy was our hobby, to your point. So it's interesting now being on the other side, but I'm almost just as intense with this and like want to get it perfect. It's not like, let's go play golf.
You're breaking golf clubs.
Everything I do. Yeah, everything I do is a little bit intense.
Yeah, I like that. You know what else I think is really interesting about you? It seems like you never gave up your feminine look, your long hair, great makeup. Do you think that women need to change the way they look to be taken seriously?
It's interesting. Look, I've always loved to be a girly girl. I grew up like dancing and with makeup, and it's so funny. I just never thought I had to change, I guess, to your point. I don't think so. I think especially now within tech and beverage and CPG, like showing up even in sweatpants, like I'm okay with that if my employees are at work in sweatpants. Because like, who cares? If they're working and they're performing, let them be them. There's many a time I've gone to a board meeting in sweatpants or in a suit, right? It's like however I felt that day, that was like my personality. And I'm seeing that shift, honestly, in the business world, maybe not like in the banking world and finance. That's when I go to like New York and everybody from Goldman to JP to... You're just like, you guys, put the suit away.
Dude, I fell into that too. I cut my hair super short when I started in banking, and I have really thick hair, so I just look like a mushroom. I mean, it was horrifying for everybody involved.
And put a picture up on the, no.
It's probably out there somewhere. But I think I really felt like this is what a businesswoman looks like. And now I'm not so sure that being attractive is not actually really an unfair advantage too.
Right.
And being feminine is actually kind of an unfair advantage because not a lot of billion-dollar CPG founders look like you.
You should do you. And it's what I feel comfortable in. You know what I mean? Like totally. I like it. Yeah. And it's the beauty of being a founder too. You can kind of do whatever the fuck you want.
The best part.
Literally the best part.
Is it also true, I was reading, I don't know, on your website or somewhere, that you got Post Malone, Hailey Bieber, Kylie Jenner, Billie Eilish, Russell Westbrook, I actually don't know who that is, J-Lo, Olivia Munn, to either invest or partner with you?
So it's interesting. Yes and no. So we are what we call is like celebrities' favorite soda, culture's favorite soda, college's favorite soda. Like we are really ingrained into like culture, music, lifestyle. We're really good at that. And so we have a really big motto at Poppy is we have unlimited samples. We send out 300,000 packages a year, like crazy amount of samples. Like that number is probably even higher now. And so our secret to success was keeping all of these celebrities stocked up. And I would say for 2 years, we stocked up Kylie Jenner, Stassi, her friend, all this stuff. And then it organically showed up one day in her TikToks. And it just organically started becoming part of their lives. Same thing with like Haley. We stalked with no, like, we didn't ever ask for them to post, do anything. And then it organically, she got papped with it all over LA, right? So I think a lot of people are like, well, they don't want to invest in that because they don't see the ROI. It's a longer burn ROI on it. And it's just like hoping and praying. Now, someone like J-Lo, love J-Lo, found out she was a big fan. We reached out. We did end up working with her. And then with Post Malone, same. He was like on a couple of podcasts just talking about how he had to give up soda because it was so bad for him. And I found out it was because he had discovered Poppy. So we organically did a partnership with them. So it's this thing where it's like a combination where we show up. I mean, like Pedro Pascal is like papped with Poppy. Like it's crazy. It's just so, it still like blows my mind every day.
That is out of control. I mean, he is like sort of the it guy now too. So does this mean that you go hang out with all of them?
I wish. I will say I've become good friends with Olivia Munn. She was like one of our OG. Her. She's the sweetie. She has kids. We have kids around the same age. And she was like one of our first. She is best friends with Rohan's right hand, Stevie, and they became friends. And she invested really early, like one of the first. And she was such a good partner. She posted us. She got papped with it. She organically just like loved it. And so, you know, when you get like a good partnership like that, you do kind of get close to them, which is fun.
Yeah. Well, you're in the kind of the trenches of business together, which is tough. What does get papped mean? Does that mean paparazzi?
Yeah.
I'm so not cool. That's so funny. How about, let's talk about the other side. Like, have you ever had a really big disagreement or investor meeting or something go really sideways in your meeting? My dad calls them like your head in the hands in the middle of the night, no idea what to do next moments.
You know, I think it's so funny. There's a lot of that, and I wish I would have journaled, I swear, where there was literally screaming, fighting, not knowing. But I think that it brings good resolution to have those moments. And, you know, one that I can kind of think of is our cans are actually direct printed, right? So they look like a regular can, they're printed. But when you start out in the early days, you do sleeved cans.
Oh, yeah.
And they're very expensive, but they're really pretty and they pop on the shelf, right? And so there was a while where we were like fighting over, should we move to direct print? Because it might not be colorful. It was like this whole thing. We didn't make time for it. It was like, so like, it was just like dramatic. And then we finally made the switch and it saved us like $17 million that year.
Whoa.
Like, because the sleeve cans are more expensive. So there's certain things where we're like, that was dumb. We should have done that earlier. The conflict got us there. It was like this whole thing. And then it finally made us a priority as the money pushed over the edge. So there's stuff like that, but I can't think of like a dragnet. I'm sure there's a lot of them. Don't get me wrong, but I love the good and the bad.
I know. Yeah, it's funny. When I wrote my book, I have a guy I worked with, my editor, Charlie, who's amazing. If you ever write one, you should work with him. But he was really funny. He's like, you know what I've realized about a lot of founders? You guys have like a weird reverse amnesia.
It's so true.
And you do not actually, I literally was like, Charlie, I know that there's been times where I've been stolen from, lied to, cheated,
Yeah.
I literally cannot remember. So he would have to prime me with all of these, which maybe is like childbirth or something. They say
it's
you can't
100%.
remember.
Yeah, I was literally going to liken it to that. It's, you have it and you're like, I'll never do that again. And then you find yourself pregnant in a year. But I'm like, I don't know if I could do it again. But it's the same thing where people are like, are you going to start another company? I'm like, I absolutely could do it again. And they're like, but you just came off that and it's you just get the bug.
Yeah.
And it's so fun. And if you're having fun, like I said, then
you keep going. So what does it take to sell a company to Pepsi for like $1.95 billion? How does that even start happening?
Yeah, so especially in beverage, there's literally 3 people that can buy you or you can go public. And the reason why you do want to partner with a strategic, in this case, it was Pepsi for us, is I want, like our mission at Poppy is to revolutionize soda for the next generation. I want it to be the soda my kids and grandkids know as soda. And the only way to do that is to get it into more hands. And the best people that can do that is Pepsi. Through distribution. I mean, they have iconic branding, systems in place, leadership, like so many good things that you can gain value on going into a system like that. And another example is like college campuses. They own all the big contracts on all of them. Yeah. We could not actually be sold on the college campuses. We're the official soda of the Lakers. We could not be sold in the stadium. Right. And so it's these things these big unlocks that you have. So for us, it was always a goal. Yeah. From Shark Tank to end goal is to hopefully get on to like Pepsi's truck, right? The American dream, right? And so for us, it was kind of like always a goal. And then you just start dating, right? So we had been talking to them for a while. You kind of have meetings, you go back and forth. And then we just had like a gangbusters growth. We had triple digit growth year over year. And it's at one point too where you can get too big, where people don't want to acquire you. And we were just like, we're kind of in this interesting sweet spot. We had been talking to them and they just seemed like it was just the right timing. You almost like don't know because you're like, is it too soon? Is it too late? But they ended up giving us such an incredible offer. And then they guaranteed all of our employees could stay on and they could keep Poppy. And so we're like this subsidiary still within the system, but we're still running as like the Poppy engine. And so for me, it was like kind of check. And so between, us as founders and the board and the senior leadership, we all just like, in our guts felt like it was the right time. Yeah. And it was like cohesive. We all felt it. Nobody was like, no, because if one person's off, there's doubt and it casts doubt. And so we were like, if we all feel good, then this is probably the right time.
How long do you think you had to start talking to people about this acquisition before it went through? Did you have a strategy about that? Were you like, hey, I want to build these relationships so one day when we need it, we're already going to be warm?
Well, the good news with Rohan, our shark, he had just been in beverage for a long time. He had sold multiple companies. He had great relationships. Our CEO, Chris, had been in beverage for 30 years, had great relationships. So that goes to the piece of like, yes, we had a great story with me and Steven, our founders, but we also had a great like team around us to help guide us through that. And it was so fun to like go through it. Now I'm like, oh man, I want to do that again.
I think there are a lot of people listening, and we've realized one thing in particular lately, David and I, that a lot of people don't know how to communicate with authority. Like they would not know how to stand up in the room with Pepsi and express what they want, or even how to come on a podcast and be taken seriously. I'm curious for you, do you think there are mechanisms to be taken more seriously in the way that you speak, maybe especially as a female CEO?
Well, for me, it's always been a little bit harder as a woman to be taken serious in a room full of men, right? Especially in beverage. I'm the only female founder of an exit of this size ever, right? And so especially in beverage, it's like a heavily male-dominated thing. But the one thing I will say is the team embraced my vision and crazy versus pushed it away. And so I'm very blessed with that because I've heard absolute horror stories. I've heard stories of people being like, they want me to change my clothes. I can't have fun anymore and do it. I was just like, you started this company for a reason. Believe in yourself. And so I always just tell myself that anytime I'm going in somewhere into a big meeting, it's like, I did this. None of them started a company. They've gotten behind us in this, but I did this and I deserve to be here versus as a female in the room, I can't. No, I'm not putting myself into that box. And I once again goes back to support system. My husband is always my biggest cheerleader and he was obviously in a lot of those meetings as well. And so it's like a little bit comforting to have like your team and your cheerleaders behind you. But I was challenged a lot through the years. And I've even had other people say, you've changed the way I lead because I thought it had to be a different way and you showed me different. So it's like growth on both ends.
Do you ever remember somebody in particular saying to you, like, you're not going to make it? No chance.
It goes back to probably that amnesia. If they did, I probably blocked it out.
Like, whatever, bitch, scoreboard.
Literally, like I'm a forever optimist. You can tell me, and look, I've cried. My ego's been hurt over the years. I've been in a room where people don't understand my value. And that's honestly harder, is when people don't recognize your value when you're doing amazing things and they're bringing you down because you're shining. That's honestly a harder place to be when people are trying to bring you down because they don't understand your value than the other. But I do think it's ever evolving. You get really thick skin as an entrepreneur, wouldn't you say?
Yeah. Yeah. Now I kind of giggle.
Yeah.
I'm like, put that other chip on the shoulder there. Got a few of them, line them up,
And, I think a lot of people don't get help as entrepreneurs. So yes, I know people talk about like mental health and therapy, but what was more successful for me was a business coach.
Yeah. That's a great, I totally agree. Like tactical as opposed to let's go back to your trauma when you were 2.
Exactly. And it was like, okay, here's your problem. How are we going to win? And it's such a better mindset for me as an entrepreneur to your point, and then looking back on my childhood, I was like, I forgot about that. Like, I'm on to the next. You know, I always say, like, reach out, find someone that can help you, get a business coach, talk to people, build on that. And like, it's okay to get help too. Half the time, a lot of people think you have to hold it in and do it all yourself. Sometimes it's hard to stop because it's go, go, go.
Oh my God, I'm so excited. Our annual event, MSOWs, come out. This event just hits different. It sells out every year. It is in person. There's a couple hundred of us that all get together. So make sure you get your ticket now if you want to. What is this event about? Well, if you want to hang out with like billionaires, if you want to hang out with millionaires, but also plumbers and secret agents, and also some of the biggest names in government and policy today, you're going to want to be here. Let me tell you some of my favorite little comments about this event. My friend Sam Parr says, this event is legit. We had a spy, a billionaire, and a hedge fund manager hanging out with a plumber. What? Another one, Nick Huber said, honestly, it's too good. You need to raise the price to this thing. No, I will not, Nick. Pace says, whatever you do, don't come if you don't want to meet Navy SEALs, buy businesses, make more money, or hang out with fellow psychopath owners. MSOWs is my favorite event because we break things down live. We do workshops to figure out business buying, but we're also going to hear from, like, I don't know, if you're into billionaires like Joe Lonsdale, maybe you want to hear from like a special surprise guest I can't even tell you about. And you also want to hear, like, how do you buy your first garbage truck and turn it into $1 million a year? That's Spencer who will teach you that. Anyway, tickets are out right now. You're going to want to get them. It's in Austin, Texas. It is going to be so legit. I can't wait to meet all of you guys there. All right, see you at MSOWs. Oh, it stands for Main Street Over Wall Street, by the way. It's not like sows or cows or anything. It's about Main Street Over Wall Street. Dates, November 2nd through 4th. And just so you know, due to personal reasons, we're going to be turning it up a fucking notch this year. What would you tell somebody who's in a room where they're not being valued or respected? How do you flip the switch on that?
Okay, one of the hardest things to do is to walk away and let them figure it out without you. So in that moment, it is not going to serve you to be angry, to lash out, to speak your mind, because they're not listening to you already in the first place. So something that was a really hard lesson that I've had to learn in my career is, okay, well, if you don't love my value, then do it yourself. One of two things are going to happen. They're going to succeed without you. And if it's your business, in the end, that's a good thing, right? That means you were probably holding on. Or two, they're going to understand that value and ask you to come back and help. But they're like, you getting angry, you freaking out, making a scene, letting your ego get in the way. Now, there's also opportunity later on to have a one-on-one and have a conversation outside the room. If it really is bothering you and something was said and you're like, that was really disrespectful, don't do it in the front of everyone. Have a one-on-one, because then half the time they'll probably realize it, have a normal conversation, and it'll get fixed. But a lot of people want to like school someone in person. It's like, that's not a good look either.
Yeah. So what does that sound like? So afterwards, if you feel like you've been disrespected and you want to circle around and have a conversation to fix that, what do you say?
I mean, you're literally, be real. Tell them how you feel, in a respectful, kind, calm thing, right? Like, hey, you literally shot down my idea in front of the entire team. I would really appreciate if you didn't do that, because half of the stuff that we're doing in this brainstorm, for example, is throwing crazy ideas out. And that's part of this process. And you doing that undermined me in front of the team. It also, you can see it on people's faces when they don't see your value, like the teammates. Like, I've had people say stuff and you can sign to see them like it's uncomfortable. Yeah. And so, hey, let's just, work on that. And like, how do you feel about it? Right? Like, hear their side of it too. So I think people don't like conflict. They don't like talking about things. And honestly, if you're going to be a good leader and a business man or woman, you have to be able to hit conflict as it happens, not 2 weeks later because it manifests.
So true. Like, focus less on exactly what you say and just go say the thing. Mm-hmm. And then you'll get more used to it. And those repetitions will lead to like better rhyming as you continue to get reps.
Yeah. And I think with value, it's so funny because you usually move through stages of you're angry, you're sad, and then to me, then you need to move to building to fix it, right? So it's like a normal emotion people go through. And it's like, okay, now I always want to kind of get to that third stage really quick. I'm like, okay, you pissed me off. You hurt my feelings, but now how are we going to fix it and like go to problem solving? Yeah. It's really hard for people to do that though, to get into that space, because staying in that angry and hurt phase, sometimes it feels better.
And it's very easy to just go around and sort of continue to tell that story to everybody too. Guess what happened to me? I'm a victim. I totally get that. What about, What, do you use different self-talk? Like, do you say words to yourself like, I'm stressed, I'm anxious, I'm this? What does the voice in your head sound like as a $1 billion founder?
I'm tired. I'm tired. I have 3 boys. I have a problem. I don't say no to anything.
Oh.
And I don't take time for myself to just do anything. So for me, it's mostly I'm tired, but it's always I can do it. And I rarely say I don't get anxiety like hardcore. I'm sure I probably do, but it's not, everyone has it, right? Yeah. So I'm not saying I'm not, but I do wish I could sleep better. I was tired. Like you're just going to be tired. Like I don't know how to explain it. And so like even tonight I'm like, I'm going to go home. I want to watch a movie and go to bed at 9. It was a long week. And then
Sounds
tomorrow
great.
I'll wake up and be like, wow, I feel so much better.
I know, 100%. Yeah, well, one of my favorite mentors said, do you want to give up or do you just need a nap? And I was like, I need a fucking nap. You're right. I'm
Literally.
sorry. That's such good advice. Yeah.
Sleep is a beautiful thing that can just make you feel better. And it's so crazy. It's so simple. But I love it when people are like, give me the recipe to that. And I'm just like, get some sleep.
Yeah, it's so true. Yeah, I was at church the other weekend and the pastor had such a good saying. He was like, sometimes it's really hard. They're kind of these young guys. They're here. It's called Red Rocks. Have you ever heard of it?
No. We go to Austin Ridge Bible.
Oh, okay. I've gone there too, which I love also.
Yeah.
I like this Red Rocks crew because it's in a movie theater, a converted movie theater.
Ooh,
they're like
interesting.
4, maybe sub 33-year-old guys, super young families. And they're just building a church for the first time ever. You're watching them do it live. And I love something about like that young hustle. I just respect
so
the hell
good.
out of it. So anyway, sometimes I went to church that day and he said this line that was so good. He's like, well, there's the guy who's sort of the head pastor, then this one that was speaking. And he's like, it's hard. So sometimes, even though we have this big mission and I have all this faith, I want to give up. And he's like, there's been many a night where I've called the head pastor and said, you know what? I just can't do this anymore. I'm sorry, I quit. And his response is so good. And he's had to say it to me a few times, which is, no problem. Quit tonight. I'll see you tomorrow morning.
That is so good.
Isn't that good?
Yeah, it's like just get some sleep.
Just get some sleep. Come back. And so I'm totally going to use that because I do think sometimes we talk ourselves into all of the work nonstop and we think about how hard something will be instead of how great it'll be when we hit it. And that's really an easy way to talk yourself out of all the things you want in life.
And time will really help. If something's like really hard, to your point, like put it aside, give it some time and then revisit it. And it usually isn't as hard.
Yeah.
At the end of the day.
It's so true. So what about if you had to pick sort of, you're looking at all these new young yous potentially at Shark Tank, and you're looking across their skill set and you're like, all right, I know that the best entrepreneurs, they need 3 skills. Like what are the top 3 skills that every good entrepreneur needs?
I mean, hustle, of course. Willing to learn, grow, and partner. So it's that collaboration. And then doing it, at least at the beginning, that they love the passion. Because I know you said like passion needs to turn into profit, but if someone is starting a business to get rich, it's to me not the best recipe for success. So you need to have that passion for whatever you're doing for those nights you want to quit, because you'll probably get into a situation where you want to quit. And if you're just doing it for the money, you'll probably quit.
Yeah, it's a good point. Do you think you could be just as passionate about any business now that you've run Poppy? Like, are you just passionate about the game of business or are you passionate about soda?
I wish I didn't know as much as I know now, right? Because back then I had no fear. I didn't know anything about beverage. I mean, beverage is a beast. You're literally shipping water.
Yeah.
And it's a very capital intensive category. So for me, it's like, yes, if I'm looking at it, right? Beauty has really great high margins. Supplements have high margins, right? Something I know I won't want to do is run a D2C company because they usually cap out about 250 million. Right? I know all these things. So then my head, when I'm thinking about what I'm doing next, I'm like going through check. Whereas before I didn't know any of that. And so yes, but now with the knowledge, I think passion is almost key because I don't sound bad. I don't need the money.
Yeah. No, it doesn't sound bad
anymore.
At all, girl. You earned that.
I mean, look, I love to make money. I want to continue to grow. I want to do a business. It's those things, but it's like, I need to find something I'm passionate about to then willing of my time, right? Because I sacrificed 10 years of my life. It turned out incredible for Poppy. And you wouldn't call it sacrifice, but I worked hard. So it has to be special. And the founder has to be right. And then, or I want to do it myself again.
Yeah. Do you think you will eventually do another one?
I think so. It's pretty new and I'm still pretty invested in Poppy and my time. And, I really want to see the success and it be successful in the Pepsi system. So it's hard. I haven't quite let go of that. And I think once I finally get it to where my baby's at college and it's good and she's moved in and she's like working on her own, I think that it will be, but I do think I have another one in me.
Yeah. I mean, it's actually pretty wild how fast that thing has grown with how young you are too.
I know.
Like that is definitely not normal. What about, was it hard to take away complete control of Poppy? Like, did you have a moment where you're like, God, I shouldn't have done that, or I need to go on an ayahuasca retreat or something in order to get comfortable with this?
It's really hard because I made a choice early on to put my face attached. So I'm the face of Poppy is me. I am Poppy. Like I'm very attached to the brand, where some people will have a very successful business and not a lot of people know who the founder is, right? I'm very public facing. So I'm very connected to it. So it's almost like, what do I do now? And I will say that has been a little bit hard. And it's like you don't sell your house and then keep a key and tell them where to put the curtains and the couches, right?
True.
So it's definitely a growth period that I'm going through. And even in the past, like for example, it was me and my husband. We knew pretty early on we didn't know everything. And it was that ego piece of, it was really hard, but we brought in expertise. I was running the marketing. I stepped down from running the marketing and just moved over to just run the creative. And we brought in a traditional CMO. There was like times along the way that we kind of let go control slowly during the steps. So then when it was this time, it was just, it felt good, but it's still hard. Yeah. It's only human,
Do you have any secrets to hiring great execs or leaders? Like, what have you realized? Obviously, you know what your top performers look like, but how could you tell like this person versus that person could be in charge of the entire marketing of your business? That's a big role.
I think culture is a huge piece. So
do you do anything weird to check if they are a culture fit? Do you make them like pound poppies or what? No?
I know, right? Like,
yeah.
I wish. Like people always like, did you give them homework? I'm like, yeah, you can give someone homework, but it still isn't like a culture, like personality, the working values. So we had like 3 values at Poppy. Is like, do you keep it real? Can you have real conversation? Can you do something really creative and disruptive? And then are you collaborative? And then obviously the hard working on top of it. But for me, the creative piece was really big. So someone might say in finance, like, how are you creative in finance? I was like, our finance team was potentially the most creative because to make sure we didn't go out of stock and like keeping the wheels on the bus and raising like that, you have to be very creative to really scale a business as quickly as we scaled, right? Same with the ops team and the sales team and, all of these things. So when I speak to creativity, it's not just on the marketing side, which I think is really important. I hate to say this, but stealing from other companies.
Yeah, totally.
Like where you are networking and you're seeing someone else balling out and like them being, you're like, oh, I need that person.
100%.
Because, there are instances where people are on the market and they're looking and like a business went out of business, but food and bev is very small community of people that really know what they're doing and you kind of know them all.
No, I think you got to go hunt your top talent.
You gotta
I
hunt.
wish you didn't, but every single one of my top performers, we have stalked and then eventually bothered enough to where they decided to say yes.
I'm glad you're saying the same thing.
I wish your answer was different. You're like, it's just this website.
But you know what? It's different for lower level. Like
100%.
You know what I mean? I was really big on pulling from other verticals like beauty and fashion and young. And at one point we were like 65% female at Poppy because it was like part of our DNA from senior leadership down. And we found like hiring women was really good. We found like certain like fun little hacky things, but we were very young, hired young, like very Gen Z forward. And it's like, those are the people that understand the culture, especially like on the marketing and creative side.
Yeah. The creative thing is actually really, really like clever. Like what did you say exactly? You said like, what was the second value at Poppy about creativity?
So we keep it real. We are creative disruptors and we do it better together.
Yeah. So you were saying like, when have you creatively disrupted something would be is that one of the questions you would like, how could you tell if they were a creative?
Totally. Exactly. And it's so funny. It's the simplest thing. Also, like, what brands do you think are cool and creative and doing something disruptive right now? Yeah. And if they can't name a single one or they say like, no offense, Gap just did that really cool campaign. So I can't even say Gap right now, but like Asics or something, you know? And I'm like,
you're like,
you
Costco's
probably
killing
don't.
it. You're like, what? Okay.
Yeah, you know, it's something like that. So you can really read a lot when people don't understand, but then it does a finance person or an ops person need to do that, right? But you'll be a better culture fit if you can actually, like my daughter's obsessed with. It doesn't have to be something you're obsessed with. Be like, so-and-so, right? Like understanding like that piece was really interesting. And then like it's the network piece of, you know, and the best people are the best people. And then Poppy people wanted to work there. Yeah. So we would put an application up and we would get like 10,000, 20,000 applications. It was very overwhelming. So I'm sure we brought recruiting in-house. Yep. You know, we have, I think 2 to 3 full-time recruiters, depending on the vertical. And then the one piece that's really hard to recruit for is the creative side.
Yeah, it's so hard.
It's really hard because most people get into like creative worlds, like a graphic designer or creative directors, and they want to be creative. They don't want to manage people. And so, and do you really want them managing people, right? And so you once again have to find those unicorns that can do both. And I feel like we have a killer team that can do both, but it's a lot harder to find.
But I accidentally almost snuck into your office that time when I was telling you about with the leasing, because the door was open, you know, when you come off the elevator or whatever. And what I loved multiple things, but I loved that it looks like your cans. Mm-hmm. And you even have like a component of it, like the bright colors, you know, the shiny, like it's just, the whole thing is, it all matches. And so I can see how like deep your culture must run because, you know, when other people repeat your words back to you, when your like headquarters also matches what it looks like online, I don't think people realize how hard that is. And to do it in a way that's not a caricature, right?
Exactly. Yeah, building a brand is really hard. It's easy to have a product, it's easy to have a business, but creating like a movement is really hard. And so honestly, with me transitioning out, that and what you're saying makes me sleep at night because of the incredible team, and they get it and they know the brand and they know culture and they're proud of Poppy, right? So like that makes me like sleep better. But I will say it just was fun. Like we were just like a fun place. We grew quick. We were like a family. We were a business, and brand first always. And I always say like create, like know who you are before you launch a brand. Like do the work, understand your consumer. What are you saying? Who are you speaking to? Who's your creative consumer? Who actually drinks Poppy? Like we did a ton of brand work and brand house and who's our muse and all of those different things we worked really hard on. So we knew who we were before we scaled. Whereas a lot of people scale, they have a business and then you try to create a brand. It's a lot harder.
It's so hard.
And then to build a community once you're big, like it's just really hard. So we just kind of built community and brand from the beginning.
It's so good. I mean, I'm obsessed with this idea of, I was listening to Elon Musk the other day talk about showmanship is salesmanship. And I loved that line because it is like everything is kind of show business. It's all like, we call it magic moments here, but how can we have every single person who interacts with us feel like there's some little moment of magic? Not everything is, right? But like some moment where they're like, this is unexpected. So I kind of think that customers can tell when you really care. Yeah. And if you compare like that caring, or if you can pair the caring with creativity, it's rare, you know, because it's a little hard to be creative and out there. That means you have to be a little weird, and that's a little scary being a little weird
and unhinged and cringy.
Yeah. And so I love that. I'm going to bother the team. We were just talking about that in the meeting today. I was like, you know, we're having an event, and we have this event every year. It's one of the biggest events we do. And I think it's one of our best give back things we do. Oh, cool. But we were going to have this little pre-call. And then the way they were setting it up, I was like, oh, can you imagine going to a hotel you're excited to stay at? You get to the hotel and the lobby's like dirty. And it doesn't look like the hotel rooms that you saw online. Like, are you checking into that hotel? Or are you like, I'm out of here. I saw the preview. I don't want to go to the main thing. And so I was like, we have to be so careful in every single moment. If they get a little taster of yours and it's been out in the sun and your third-party logistics wasn't very good, and so now it tastes bad, like they're never going to buy Poppy again, right?
One chance, yeah.
Right. Fascinating.
Yeah, and it comes down to, we think of that in a lot of layers. So the first thing that gets the consumer's attention is our packaging in store. And we've spent so much time on this packaging. We have like a designer dedicated full-time to our packaging. And down to what do you say on the front, colors, the the fruits, we're designing a new flavor right now. I was just on a call yesterday with it. And like, how does it, is it literal? Is it illustrative? Like so like that's our first line of defense of like the brand as a consumer. And to your point, if we throw an event for creators, it is so next level. But you know what? If we're actually getting together, I'm going next week, we're doing our national meeting. We're all getting together at Poppy. We create our employees like our creators. So they're going to show up to the hotel. They're going to have influencer bags in there. The events, we make them feel like they're at a Poppy event that we would have done for a creator. And like, that's part of our culture. It's like, why would we treat our employees differently? Yeah. And so we do kind of go all out with that stuff. And our marketing budgets are a lot higher than I think a lot of others on the brand building side and the culture side and the things, just to allow us to do stuff like that and really treat our employees as well.
Almost like, where did you learn that from? Like, why did you start doing that?
You know, we were just forced to really do things differently within COVID. And I don't know. I love people. I have like a good heart too with it. And you just got to like reward the people that are working so hard for you. I don't know how to explain it. And then I will say the brand piece of it, it just kind of like came as we went. We weren't afraid to listen to our consumer and change and, you know, always work on it. A lot of people think like, well, I figured that out 3 years ago. Like we're doing like brand work every 3 months. And we're keeping the core of who we are. We do a lot of it internally. Stevie, who I talked earlier about with Rohan, secondhand person, she's incredible in brand, been working with brands. Like, so we bring in a lot of expertise. Mm-hmm. We have a great in-house quote unquote agency with like designers, art directors and stuff like that. So it's just an ongoing process. And I wouldn't even say it's like all me. It's like, it's just Poppy.
Yeah. Well, it's hard. I mean, I never thought brand mattered that much because I was in finance. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, does the math, you know, the spreadsheet, where I was a spreadsheet girly. And so I didn't think it really mattered how you dressed or like what makeup or anything about brand except like make it look trustworthy. That would have probably been my main thing. And then when I started having some consumer businesses and then being on the internet, I realized, oh my God, I have this so wrong. And that when you're maybe a more junior entrepreneur, brand, it seems like, listen, I'm trying to pay rent. Brand, what are you talking about? Like, I'm trying to just make it happen. But then if you want to get to the big leagues, the difference between Poppy and some knockoff soda that somebody else is doing is your brand.
Correct.
That's where all the margin is, right?
It's literally why we were acquired.
Yeah.
Is our brand and our core audience of like, we are soda for the next generation. And we've built it on a brand and a lifestyle. Like people match their makeup and their nails and their outfits to Poppy cans. Yeah. And it's like, that is like unreal it's so funny. I'll go to conferences and I do all sorts of stuff. And one of my favorite things, and it might sound creepy at first, is I'll have older gentlemen come up to me and say, can I take a picture? And they'll say, it's for my daughter. My daughter is obsessed with you. I love Poppy. We love it in our house. And like, they're just as excited because their kids are doing something better. And it's like this movement, and it's just so cool to see this type of movement happening. But I mean, it took us years to get there. We just invested in brand from day one. Our marketing budgets were way higher than they should have been. And honestly, I will say, like, I have to give it to like Rohan and Stevie, like they're great brand builders. And like, I learned a lot from them, but it's just the team and it was just like, it was part of our culture. I don't know if that makes sense.
100%.
Yeah.
You know what? Yeah. Now that I think about it, I have a dear girlfriend who has 4 little girls, and 2 of them are obsessed with Poppy. Now because I remember hearing about it from them. They live in Dallas. That's probably also another part of it. But they have like a Poppy party or something. Uh-huh. Is that a thing the little girls do? Yeah. And they have like different tasting when new ones come out?
Yes.
Whoa.
Poppy parties. I mean, we have sororities during Rush. They have a themed days, and one of them be like Poppy Rush Day. And they're like colored cans and orange, and like so much so that we started seeing that trend online, that this year we did customize sorority cans.
God, that's good.
With them. So we sent it, and then it had their sorority on it. So they were posting it, and it went absolutely viral. And like, that is a brand building initiative that has a higher ROI than doing a commercial, because it's just part of the movement. And a lot of people wouldn't see that trend. They wouldn't invest in the cans and buy the licensing and do all that. But we just see like brand first, culture first, creative first.
So smart. Yeah. Plus those ladies who do the dancing in front of the, God, I sound so old again, but like they do like at Mizzou or whatever. They're like all these hot young little sorority chicks out front.
So
and
much
they get millions of views.
That literally last year, we live here in Austin. I went to the Zeta House and I danced with them in front of the thing. Yeah, literally.
So
I was like, this would be great content. Once again,
Are
putting
you a
myself
good
out there.
dancer?
I'm a pretty good dancer.
Oh,
yeah.
That's, I really wanted to see some Alex
major
Earl.
in college for like a year before I realized like, what am I doing? But no, but this year we sent Alex to the campus and she
I think I did see. So that was your activation.
Yes.
With her.
Yeah.
That's wild. I swear I researched before this podcast, but you guys are
we're kind of everywhere.
I know. And then I didn't even realize it was you. That goes back to the 40% household.
Well, we have, it's so funny. We have someone on our team, Sophia, her title's VP of Culture. And a lot of people might confuse that with HR. No, it's all things cultural.
Oh, cool.
So it's an entire vertical that we have within Poppy. So it goes the influencer, the social, the events, the partnerships, like all things culturally in culture report up into her. And so like that's how serious we take it.
That is brilliant. And so you're kind of like always able to capture a trend or capture a movement and figure out how does Poppy become sort of a marquee portion of like what's happening right now. Are there other brands that do that well today?
You know, everyone always is like, who do you look up to? Who it's It's so hard because we've literally built the playbook.
Yeah. Like Duolingo had a moment, I feel like, where they were really doing that, but that's not so much now.
Right. Yeah. I would say Duolingo did a good job online and with their mascot. I've always thought like mascots are a little cringy. I'll be honest, like people dressing up in cans and stuff is like weird to me, but it worked for them.
Yeah.
It was
really
like a moment.
Plus, what else are you going to do with that? You have a beautiful can. You know, they're like, here's my app.
Yeah.
That's
yeah,
tough.
totally. So no, this has been a really hard question. And I've like always, the only people that I'm like obsessed with that move at the speed of culture, that they're huge and it's $1 billion brand. Cause it's really easy for like younger brands to like do stuff, be more nimble, but Skims.
Oh yeah.
Somehow they figure out marketing initiatives where they'll get like the White Lotus cast in a campaign 3 months after it airs. And I'm just like, to move that quick with such like a cultural moment is pretty impressive.
Yeah. Those nipple bras were brilliant.
So good, right?
Because you know what else I really respect about them? They do not give a fuck. They're like, do we win? We don't care what people think.
They're like business women and people underestimate. And that's why I think it goes back to like where you can be in fashion and dress different and do things and put yourself out there and be a badass like businesswoman. Like you can have it all nowadays and be a mom and not be a mom. And, right? Like you can kind of, I really think this female movement is like our time now. Is it harder? Yeah, it's harder.
Yeah.
But being an entrepreneur is hard.
Yeah. Yeah, all hard. So just choose it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I kind of want to end on, it's such a good point that you said about the Kardashians though, because we've been thinking about that lately. We did these like little photo shoots, but we riffed on like iconic, remember Kim K when she was Man of the Year with the Cheetos bag?
So good.
And even that I was like, oh, it's just slightly off. She's kind of making fun of it, kind of not. It was so well executed. And then Taylor Swift when she had the cat around her shoulders.
So good.
Do you remember that one?
Yeah, everyone calls her the Catwoman.
Right.
Yeah.
So she's like, fucking Time Woman of the Year, whatever.
Yes.
And so we did these little things and they really hit. And I was nervous about doing them because I thought, well, that means we're not very serious. Like, are they going to take, I've got a Cheetos bag. Why do I have a cat on my shoulders? But you kind of got to get over it.
But
and
it's almost going against the grain of like what you guys are doing. And it puts you out there and then you get eyes on it. And at the end of the day, you're winning when more people learn about what you're doing.
Yeah.
It's win. Like, as long as you're not doing something to like, don't get canceled, but like, out there, but like, that's not going to get you, that's just going to get eyes on you and it's going to be fun. And you know what, if you're having fun doing it, like do it.
Yeah. Plus like, I think a little inoculation against cancellation every year is fine.
Yeah,
I try to throw out a few things that might get me canceled every year because
just
then
on the edge.
Yeah. Just like right there at the end, little vaccine. So I want to end basically with this. So you're going on, you are now inspiring this next generation of entrepreneurs, which is so cool. What would you tell the 21-year-old that's listening that wants to build a business like you? What would you tell them today?
Get online and start telling your story now. Building community is going to be an army of people behind you. And everyone, like, almost think like an influencer. Be a creator. Be something that you don't know what your logo looks like, get online and ask. You might have 2 people tell you, but hey, that's an audience of 2 giving you an opinion. You can take it and build on it or not. But I think a lot of people are just still scared. They see a lot of brands online. They're like, oh, it's so saturated. Everyone's doing that now. Well, it's probably because it's working. So I know that sounds really simple, but as a business, start now, because it takes a really long time to build a core community, and you don't want customers, you want community.
So good. Especially in a world of AI where everything's easier to build, the moat is community. It's how many people want to buy your stuff because they want to associate with you.
And loyalty, right? And it's nowadays consumers are a little bit not as loyal. They're like try brands. It's a little bit hard, especially Gen Z. You're seeing like they're not as loyal, or they'll just try something and it's flip-flopping, like all of that. But if you have a core community, you'll get that loyalty as well.
Okay. And where should everybody follow you, Allison?
Yeah. So obviously the Drink Poppy channels, you have to check it out. But then obviously on my own, it's Allison Ellsworth.
Are we going to see the dancing TikToks if we go to your TikTok?
You will.
We'll have to scroll up.
So much so, literally, I'm so excited. They do Dancing with the Stars Austin, and they pick 5 women and 5 men. So I'm dancing this year in a big gala. It's for the Center for Child Protection, and you raise money. It's like the biggest gala. So I'm actually even doing dance lessons right now. Like I have not done it in 20 years, but it's for a good cause. And so I have time to do stuff like that now.
I will make sure I donate. That
so
sounds
check it
amazing.
Out. Yes, thank you.
I can't wait to see you dancing there. You don't want to see, I've only ever danced in one video on the internet, total regrets. That's one of my rules, actually, as they know, no dancing on the internet, Codie. So now maybe I got to change it up.
Oh no, I'm going to get you on next season. I'm going to literally put your name in to be on. You're so screwed.
I should have never told you that. Let's give you all my weak points.
I'm here for it.
Thank you so much for coming on today.
Thank you. I had so much fun.
Is there an actual billionaire multiple times over who's run a $100 billion company? How do we steal her homework? How do we learn lessons from somebody who has won so many times in so many businesses? And in the same conversation, she actually is one of the most powerful women of all small business in the US right now as the administrator of the SBA, the Small Business Administration. So not only does she share lessons about what it takes to build a big, huge company, but she also shares lessons about how do you find money hidden in plain sight in the government from the SBA for you, and what is the future going to hold for small business. I'm really excited about this episode. Not very many people get a chance to sit down with the head of the SBA in her office and see behind the scenes what is going to happen to small businesses today. You are going to want to listen to this episode. Kelly, I'm so excited you're here.
Codie, I'm thrilled to be with you.
You grew up on a farm and came from a lot of struggle and strife that only entrepreneurs know. Can you tell me about that time?
Well, it was incredible to grow up on a family farm. And at the time, I grew up in a house that had no upstairs heating. So we'd wake up in the morning in the winter and there would be frost inside the windows. But we never thought that was anything that would be different or wrong with that. We just had electric blankets that we slept under. But I saw how hard my family worked and I was inspired by it. I saw my grandmother writing the commodity futures prices on the Formica countertop. And then when my grandfather and dad would come in for lunch, they'd look at the prices and go back out. And that's where I first got my interest in finance and markets. And I saw my mom and dad building their trucking company together and dealing with the Interstate Commerce Commission filings and the paperwork. And I saw our truck drivers coming over to collect their paychecks while my mom wrote them out. And it really impressed upon me that, wow, they're providing livelihood and they're building something for people, that people are coming to us asking them to haul loads of grain off their farm, not just our farm, but theirs. And my parents sponsored the softball team in our small town. Like I saw and what other small businesses did. And so I also saw how the toll it took on my dad, like how hard he worked, 20-hour days planting crops or baling hay, just the hard physical labor that he did it out of love for us. I mean, he wasn't always able to be at our sports games. And that was totally understood by us. Like that made us tougher. We could come home and say, Dad, we won the game. Here's how it went. And he's like, well, I won the game for you guys today too. And, it gave me a love of work. So I worked in the fields growing up a lot. I worked in our cattle lot. I showed cattle in 4-H. I learned to sew my clothes because if I wanted a nice graduation dress or a dress in college for a formal, I would sew that. And then, all the way to, getting waitressing jobs to fill in for high school and college expenses, and having that experience working in small businesses, waitressing, working in retail stores. And that gave me such a strong, well-rounded experience. That's why I'm so honored to serve at the SBA, to serve the small businesses that I know firsthand what they mean on our main streets.
So good. I also think I've met a few farmers, and you guys are totally better at Wall Street commodity trading than the best suits and ties. I mean, I think the drawl is always the giveaway. That's when I know I'm in trouble, because they give me a little, well, hey, I don't know about that. And then they know about that. So I got a lot of respect for farmers.
Well, they have a lot of skin in the game. I mean, nothing like having thousands of bushels of a cash crop on your hands to force a decision.
One of the things I was curious about is you and your husband have run multiple businesses together and seem very aligned. What's the secret to doing that?
Boy, that's a great question. First of all, I'm incredibly blessed. That's the first open secret right there. Well, I am so blessed to have met him at a time in my life when, things could have gone either way. I thought, I've been moving around the country for 10 years, taking increasingly more responsible jobs. And I thought coming to Atlanta was going to be another stop on that career trajectory where I was working to find my fitting. I'd just gotten my CFA and had worked in private equity, had worked in as an equity analyst, and then was interested in doing investor relations. And I ended up joining the executive leadership team, ultimately working my way up to that. But we both just connected on our Midwestern values, our love of our families, our work, our shared passion for improving ourselves and giving back. We're both very altruistic, but we're also competitive. So we kind of feed on that. And I'm just so blessed. We get along great. We love talking about business. And we both understand what's important in life. And it's not the monetary. I mean, people make a lot of our wealth or success, but it's something we don't really spend a lot of time talking about.
Interesting. Yeah, you're not very flashy.
Yeah, I drive a Kia Telluride. I do
out of
have
town.
Yeah.
Really? You don't want to roll up in the Lambo?
Made in Georgia. Well, I'll admit I do. I have a Porsche, and I do love, and because when I was 11, living on our farm, a guy in a Porsche came driving up to drop off something for my dad from a grain elevator. And I was like, what is that car? And when I found out it was a Porsche from age 11, I always wanted one. So, I do think it's beautiful engineering and they go fast, and I love racing and all that. But I'm most comfortable just driving around town in my Kia Telluride, made in Georgia.
I love that. Also, I'm a bad driver, so I shouldn't be trusted with nice cars. So I'm into that. Okay, so you chose well with your partner. And the only reason I want to ask one more question about partnership, because I think, at least for me, I work with my husband. It's the best thing that I ever did, and also the hardest. Our first year working together was really, really hard. And I wasn't sure we didn't make a mistake at first. I was like, oh my gosh, can we really do these two things? And now it's a gift that I feel like was taken from us as society. It was bad to work with your family. It's bad. It's nepotism. It's all these things. And I think that was a giant lie. And instead, it's really beautiful to get to build with your family. What do you think? And what advice would you give some young man or woman out there that could learn maybe what partnership is like in business and love and marriage?
Yeah, I mean, it's incredible. It is such a gift. And I saw my parents working together on our farm every single day, building my dad's trucking company together. My dad started it the year I was born after he got out of the National Guard. He'd learned to drive a fuel truck in the Guard and thought, okay, I'll add trucking to our farm, which was transformative for our family, just particularly in the lean years of farming where negative cash flow. And so I saw my mom helping my dad build that business and how amazing it was to have a family that all worked together. And now we're on the 5th generation on our family farm. It's incredibly rewarding, the pride and the ability to work through the challenges together. I think it's something that our country is a little bit lost. And you've pointed that out. I've heard you talk about like 80% of people in America in the 1800s were small business owners, and now it's 6%. And I think that's tragic. And I really appreciate all the work you do to encourage entrepreneurship, even though back on the farm and in the small town I grew up in, everyone was an entrepreneur, but we never knew that word.
Yeah, right.
It was just everyone felt like they did what they did because it was their calling.
I think one of the interesting parts about you is you have built all these really big businesses previously, cross-sector, and yet, you started really without a lot, which I'm sure small business owners can relate to. They might hear how big your businesses are and not think that you understand what it's like to be a little guy. But was there ever a moment where you were like, this isn't going to work, I'm totally going to fail, and we're going to lose everything?
Over and over and over. That is essentially like, it's the setbacks and the rejection that I remember more sometimes. That's what always fueled me. And
do you have a big juicy one?
Oh my goodness. Well, from my earliest time in my career, I mean, I applied for jobs I didn't get. I went back and got those jobs. I've never accepted rejection. I've been tenacious about it, but I've also had huge setbacks, whether it's in working on deals or working on businesses that we thought that was the end of the opportunity. And just kept going. And I think it comes from really how I was raised. I mean, on a farm, you are raised in that situation. You don't have any guarantees, and you figure it out, and you work hard until it's done. And I think just that tenacity really saw me through a lot. And, certainly building a career from Wall Street now into the cabinet, from rural America, I think that just really taught me to dig in, keep going, keep learning, and keep the curiosity about how things work, and keep asking questions, and never accept the first no.
Yeah, you seem like, when we were talking kind of behind the scenes, you're like, I like it. I want to be in there. I want to be like making a difference. And I was like, wasn't it scary to run for Senate? That sounds horrifying. You were like, no, like, put me in, coach. So you got a little of that inner psychopath. I'm into that.
Yeah.
What about, so you owned an MBA, a WNBA team, which seems incredibly hard in just every aspect, not as much funding, lower ticket sales, and then there was inner turmoil in the WNBA. What was the hardest moment for you running that business?
Well, I think the biggest decision came when my business partner and I, we were 50-50 owners, but before that, we were minority owners. And there came a point where the majority owner decided to sell. And we had to look at each other and say, do we want to step up and be 50-50 owners? And I was running a big part of our publicly traded company at the time. And I had to have confidence in the team that we brought on to really run that business day to day. And also the funding. I mean, it was, it's not an inexpensive endeavor to sink money into that every single year.
Was it public how much that was?
No, but it's a couple million, and it was, we'd hoped to be able to get it to break even, but to the point, back then, the bigger decision was to say, is this a go or no go? And I believe that when life opens a door for you, and like to walk through it, and that life had opened a door for me as a professional sports team owner, and walking away at that time didn't seem like a good option. And I'm really glad we walked through it. We owned the team for a decade. And it was very grassroots. In fact, I was working with a reporter one time and pitching a story. I mean, I was, making sure that we got the visibility. I had this vision because of what I'd seen living in Chicago during the Bulls run in the 90s. And I thought, my goodness, I see what sports do for a community. They really bring it together. And I think Atlanta could be a great sports town. And so we invested on that basis to not have this as a hobby, but to make this a business and a great community contribution. And we were so glad that we walked through that door and did that for a decade for our fans, for our community, to elevate the sport. And it turned out to be such a good, I learned so much being a sports team owner that applied to business. Because in business, sometimes you can kick the can on a problem. In sports, you can't do that.
Why? Everybody's just yelling at you all the
Well, because in sports, the scoreboard shows the results every single day. The ticket sales show the results every single day. The coaching shows the results. And so you have to make those decisions game time. And so I started doing that in business, running my businesses like a coach would run a team. And I became a lot more effective, decisive, and not afraid about what decisions were around the next corner. It just really emboldened me to make those decisions and keep going.
I'm a huge Phil Jackson fan, and it really stuck with me a lot. I read his lessons often on how to be a good leader.
Yeah, the Zen master. Yeah.
He was. I never would have known.
Yeah, he was. He really ran an amazing team. When you read about the dynamics of the Bulls and how the players didn't necessarily all get along, but they brought so much electricity to the court, to the community. And it was just a huge lesson for me watching the Bulls. It was instructive, not just as a sports leader, but as a business leader.
What do you think your leadership style is? Like, you've been successful in WNBA, you've been successful in a Senate race, you're the administrator of the SBA, you've also run these huge public companies. How do you keep winning?
Well, I think it's you learn from the losses. And there's more losses than wins, to be honest. When you get to this point in life, you start looking back and you're saying, I'm really glad for some of those hard times. And some of those hard times were the best times. I think back to when our company was a startup. I mean, today it's $100 billion Fortune 500 company, but when we had 100 people and it was working every single weekend without a single day off, straight through, get there early, leave late, come back, over and over, cancel the vacations. The birthday dinner turns into a due diligence review up in New York. All those things, those were the best times. I didn't need a birthday dinner. I didn't need the vacation. I mean, these were the things that built the trajectory for success. And so I'm always happy to run into the fire. It's why I was able to start a crypto company in 2017, because I love to see a challenge. And I'm so blessed. My husband, Jeff, was the founder of that Fortune 500 company. And he's a visionary who is an engineer. And he takes every problem apart at the nuts and bolts level. And that's kind of how we've worked through a lot of challenges. And I'm a little different. He's a genius. He's brilliant. I'm more of a hard worker. I didn't have the gifts of the intellect that he had, but I'm a hard worker. That's my superpower. And I have a deep well of curiosity. I love to get atomic level on things. That's why I was the only chartered financial analyst that's ever served in the U.S. Congress.
What?
So, yeah.
Okay, you're obviously smart if you have a CFA. That's like the highest, basically, level financial certification you can have. And the failure rate for like level 3 is something like 90% or something. It's like each level gets harder.
Yeah, well, I worked really, really hard on studying for it. And I made sure I passed every level on the first try. And it was a great challenge. And I love a challenge. And I think approaching everything like this is a challenge I can do makes all the difference, instead of, oh, I'm a victim, I'm a woman, only 11% of the people that pass this exam are women. I just said, I know I can do this. So I think accepting everything as a challenge as opposed to saying that it's all stacked against me makes all the difference.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, there was a quote I was reading the other day. Somebody asked Michael Dell, they were like, Michael, how much did you work during those first, few years of building your company? And he was like, I worked all the hours. And so I think, is that what it takes to build a multi-billion-dollar company? Is there any way to build it with a 4-hour work week, a lifestyle business?
No. And why would you want to do that? I think part of the journey of life is creating and building and being with people. I mean, we haven't really talked about the people element. The most fascinating part of what I've experienced over my 30-plus year career is interacting with people, learning from them, and what works, what doesn't, how to succeed. And that doesn't come from just doing deals. That comes from experience at the negotiating table, walking away from it, coming back to it, having the discussions, whether it's internal within our own company. We used to promote internal dissent and debate. And then we'd make sure we pressure test everything internally and had the fights internally before we exposed them externally. And did things before we announced them. A lot of people love to run a company by press release and say, hey, we're going to do this and we're going to do that. No, we didn't do any of that. We would do the thing and then we'd say, we've been doing this for a month and our customers love it. So I think, walking the walk, not just talking the talk, was so important. And it's about making sure that you have people that are bought into the vision for doing the work, not, taking the victory lap.
Yeah. How do you foster dissent in an organization? How do you get people to like competing for the best ideas?
Well, I think it goes back to the original question you asked me about what kind of leader am I? I'm a hands-on leader. I try to run as flat organizations as we can. Like we're all on the same team. Like the team first concept is we're all in this together. If you fail, I fail. And so I want you to succeed. And that's why I am really careful about the teams I pick. And, loyalty is important, but you're being loyal to me if you say, Kelly, I don't think that's a good idea. It's not disloyalty. I don't want to be encircled by yes men. I want people to say what you're doing is maybe not the optimal way to do this. Have you thought about this? And I may take it on board. I may not, but I'm like, thank you for letting me know. I'm glad we've had this conversation. And so I think just really encouraging communication and dialogue. I feel like someday communication is going to be a lost art within the business world.
It does feel like that. But, and maybe that does go back to, sort of this, you've played a lot of games where you either won or lost publicly. Running a public company, got to have quarterly results, WNBA, nightly scoreboard. And so unlike a lot of people in the government, you're like, no, there are consequences to my actions, which is kind of shows across all of your businesses. So if you're talking to a small business owner right now who is worried about inflation and what's happening around them, what would you tell the people that you're about to see on the street?
Well, the great thing about small businesses is they live in a very dynamic environment. And so I hear from them all the time as I travel across the country. And what I'm hearing is that they want taxes to be made permanent, the tax cuts to be made permanent. They want taxes to be low. They want regulations cut. They want fair trade. They're excited about the conversation we're having on making America produce things again, onshoring our manufacturing. And I also think small businesses need a focus on skilled workforce by education. I mean, we really need to look at our educational system and say, what are the skills and the trades of the future? And so that's critically important because so many small businesses can't fill roles, can't find the skilled workforce. So we're working with small businesses across that entire spectrum to make sure that they have the resources they need. Chief among those at the SBA is access to capital, which is our bread and butter, to help small businesses access lending through our partners in the private sector, your local community bank or things like a credit union, and making sure that they have the lifeblood of their business, which is capital.
Yeah. So do you think that you guys, as an administration overall, will small business owners get those permanent tax cuts? Will there be like a pro-small business environment? Because lots of people say they love small business. But do you think that is actually going to happen?
Well, look, there's no bigger fan of small business than President Trump and this administration. And I do believe we're working quickly toward Congress having that 2017 Tax Cuts and Jobs Act extended, hopefully made permanent. That will provide tremendous certainty for small businesses to invest and grow and hire and drive our main streets. And I believe manufacturers and businesses of all kinds are really spring-loaded, just waiting for that tax cut to come through. But in the meantime, we're working really hard on deregulation because regulation, and in fact, the Biden administration passed $1.7 trillion in regulations, setting an all-time record by many multiples of massive regulation. That's a tax on small business, disproportionately on our manufacturers as well.
Yeah, we were reading some statistics earlier about how that is somewhere between $8,000 and maybe some other people say $15,000 per employee by federal taxes on small businesses. So there's a real regulatory drag, it seems like.
Yeah.
And so, let's talk a little bit about the things we can control, because I think sometimes hearing about everything the administration is going to do, you're like, great, I'll keep working while we wait for that. So one of the cool things you guys have done is what I call like showcasing money hiding in plain sight. So the SBA obviously provides tons of loans to small businesses. What do you think most small business owners don't realize they have access to with the SBA that they do? Where is your like hidden free money?
Well, actually, that's a great question. I actually think the SBA is not well understood. What we do is provide government-backed guarantees to private sector loans and loans that may not be extended but for that government guarantee. And what I love about these programs is they're self-funding. They're not taxpayer funded. When run properly with the right underwriting guidelines, these loans pay for themselves while generating access to capital for the small business, growing the tax base, driving employment. So it's a really free enterprise / private public partnership type thing that is unique in government. Usually it's government giving a grant. What we focus on is making sure that qualified businesses who can't get capital elsewhere can get them through the SBA, those loans. And that's what I'm really proud of, is that we're making these loan programs better and more accessible.
Yeah. And so if you're a small business owner listening right now, like, is there any downside to going to your local SBA office and just saying, hey, I want to see if I could be pre-approved for a loan for X or Y or Z? Like, should every small business owner be at least meeting with their local SBA?
Absolutely. So we have 68 offices across the United States at the SBA. And what you can do is start having those conversations. Maybe you don't need capital right now, but you need access to some of the counseling that we do through our small business development companies that really help small businesses build toward accessing capital or planning their expansion. And we can work across the federal government to connect them to other resources that, as you say, capital hiding in plain sight. Like, could there be other programs? The SBA also oversees government contracting. We have to ensure that small businesses get about 23% of federal contracts. And we have programs to help them onboard into federal government contracting, which I'll admit is not the easiest thing to navigate in the world. And we're trying at the SBA to demystify that and make sure that it's really small businesses that are getting that benefit.
It's so good. So we'll put it in the show notes. You should definitely go to the SBA. We'll link where the field offices are. No downside to saying, how could you guys help me? And the entire job of those field offices is to give you resources. That's what
right.
they're paid to do.
That's right. And we have lending folks in our offices that can help direct you to what those loan services are, or they may say maybe what you want more of is more of the counseling side and working with our partners in that.
Yeah. And can they help you put together a package to actually get money? So if you're like, hey, I want to get a loan from the SBA, here's sort of what I have. Can they look at it and go, well, you should beef up this part of your business plan. You should think about it this way?
Yeah. So the lender relations specialist in each district will, kind of navigate you through that program. They'll connect you with a lender. We actually have an online lender match service that you can access as a small business just through our website and see if there's a lender that might be interested in your type of, sector or type of loan. So you can do it that way too, even if you don't want to go into an office.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, I also know that you guys have a list of like the top 200 or something most common lenders with the SBA. So you can kind of see who is playing this game often. I think a lot of times people are like, the SBA loans are really hard to get, which is true in some ways, but also it might be because you're going to a lending institution that doesn't actually work with the SBA and they say they're a big lender, but they're in the bottom quartile. And so if you go to people who are at the very top, and I won't name names, so everybody's our buddy, but it seems like if you go to people who already do the thing, then they will have a higher likelihood of getting approved for the thing.
That's very true. And then there's also just the fact that these are government guaranteed loans. Certainly the lender takes the first loss. So these are underwritten to traditional private sector lending underwriting standards. But at the same time, we have to ensure that they're underwritten so that the government isn't put in the position, or the taxpayer, which is also a small business, is put at the position of funding losses. So we want to make sure that portfolio is performing as it should. And generally it does. We operate a $444 billion loan portfolio at the SBA.
That's a lot of money.
Yeah.
You also have incredibly low default rates.
Yes.
I think actually, what surprised me is a lot of people, we teach thousands of people how to buy businesses and we use SBA loan programs all the time. And people were like, normal people can't buy a business. The loans, they're underwater. You have this personal guarantee. It's so big and scary. And it is. It should be. Anytime you take somebody else's money, you should be really thoughtful about it. But, your loan rates are incredibly low. So I also think the SBA is a great filter for, should you even buy this business?
That's right.
Right? If the SBA won't approve it, is it good?
That's right. And I have talked to a number of business owners who have said to me, I got my first loan through the SBA. I would not be in business today. I was a sous chef. My wife was a teacher. we barely had any assets, but we had a great idea. They got an SBA loan, but they also said we were never so happy when we paid off that SBA loan. And it gives them the discipline and the confidence to get into business and then start repaying that loan.
Yeah, and now you guys have done some interesting things where I saw for the first time ever, you can start to have multiple people on an SBA loan to diversify some of your single party personal guarantee risk, which I think is really lovely for people who don't have a lot of assets.
That's right. We've tried to make the programs, make sure that they are performing well, but make them realistic for how deals in the private sector actually work. And a lot of times when you have people designing loan programs that haven't been in the private sector, that don't understand how deals work, that they may not have that flexibility. So we're trying to make sure we have the belt and suspenders on the underwriting standards, but also make sure that they work in the real world.
Yeah, well, I really appreciate it. I think a lot of times the SBA loan not going through was a benefit to the buyer of the business, and they didn't even realize it.
Well, and that's right. We don't want to saddle people with loans and potential defaults and bankruptcies that we could have foreseen by having the prudent underwriting standards, which we just put back in place at the SBA, and that will strengthen the programs back to where they were.
Yeah, I like it. What would you say to people who say, man, the SBA loans take too long, and so they kill my deals, or I can't buy a business because they're not fast enough?
Yeah, I hear that, but I also think that is where we need to make sure that we have the right lender on the program, and that's why our lender match program was developed to ensure that borrowers are talking to a full spectrum of potential lenders. But also we are being self-critical and looking at where do we have too much red tape and bureaucracy, and how do we run this like the business that our small businesses have to operate. They have to do more with less. They have to navigate all kinds of bureaucracy. We should be the last place that they're encountering massive red tape. So we are taking a hard look at that. And we actually set up a red tape hotline at redtape@sba.gov to let our small businesses tell us where are they struggling, not just in the loan process, but where are federal regulations weighing them down needlessly? Because I saw it firsthand when I was in the Senate. Like, there's a lot of focus on legislating and rulemaking and regulations. There's not a lot of focus until we got to DOGE about how do we roll some of that back. And President Trump is leading the charge on that again. He did it in 2016, eliminating multiple regulations for each new one. We're doing it again, at least eliminating 10 for every new regulation. And that's something that I think is picking up momentum, not just in the federal government, but in the states where there's also a lot of regulation.
So let's look into the future. If they don't get access to somebody like you, now they get to sit and listen and hear from you on what is the future with this administration with small business, and what are some of the initiatives that you think are going to be really incredible for small business owners.
One of the things I'm most excited about is our Made in America manufacturing initiative at the SBA, which amplifies President Trump's America First agenda. And what does that mean? It means we're creating opportunities in America that had been hollowed out from us over the last 3 decades, where we lost something like 70,000 factories. 5 million jobs in our manufacturing heartlands are gone. We can do that again in America. And I have been across this country going through factories and hearing from owners of, and these are small businesses, most manufacturers, 99% of them are small businesses. And they've been telling me, I have been fighting the notion that we can't make things in America for 2 decades. And it's happening, and I see it as tremendous opportunity for small businesses because they supply the larger producers with the subcomponents and the parts and the materials that they need. They provide the restaurants for the workers. They provide the retail stores. I think we're on the cusp of not just a manufacturing, but an America First renaissance in this country. And I hope everyone will be a part of it, because I think if we can get the tax cuts done, the deregulatory agenda continuing to advance, we're on really at the dawn of what President Trump says is truly a golden era, because for too long, people have underestimated the American worker and American industry. And we're getting back to that now.
Right. Get chills. Well, I'm so appreciative of your initiatives to push forward small business. I can tell because I've met with your staff and other members of your team that you guys are actually really pushing for the little guy. And so I hope people take you up on all the initiatives at the SBA and go and look at the resources and meet with your local members. And then also you guys do an incredible job highlighting content too. So if there's like companies that, are small businesses that want to get highlighted as well, I know that there are spaces on the website there. Administrator Leffler, thank you so much for being here with us today.
Cody, it was great to be with you. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. If you want to see all the resources we talked about today, we actually compiled them for you into this little report. If you want that, then click below. You can get the link right here for all the SBA resources. If you guys liked this episode, wait until you see the one we have coming next. If you are not subscribed to the podcast, like apparently something like 60% of you guys are not right now, we are missing out. You guys are going to want to have a notification for the next podcast because we are going to find more hidden money and we are going to hear from more world leaders to see how you can change your life and your business. So make sure you hit that subscribe button. We called this podcast The Big Deal because you are a big deal to me. No matter how small your business is or how big your business is or how big or small your life is, you really matter. And I hope you felt that in this episode. We are here to make sure that you continue to have the thing I believe leads to more freedom than anything else, which is money. I think that's the lifeblood of small business, is making sure cash flow stays in. And I think that is the answer to freedom for most people, is when you have more cash, you can actually architect the world around you. And so I want to thank you for being with us in this podcast. It means the world to me. And I just want you to know that we do everything in our power every single week to make sure that you are still the biggest deal on this podcast. We'll see you next week.